Oh well, it'll take a minute or two, I guess. I forget the delay time on YouTube.
It's only like a few seconds, but I mean, it
Oh,
tends to
okay.
happen.
Yeah, I remember back in the day with OBS, you had to it was like a long delay. But anyway, anyways, those are the bad old days. This is Digital Archipelago, episode 25. 25?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, the first stream of the season in January. Already I'm getting criticism. Gio, your recent support for AR is pathetic. Well, maybe we'll get into that. But oh my god, this is going to be we were thinking about what we're gonna do, and we're like, well, we tried to do a little bit of the predictions on the New Year's stream, but so I just want to shameless note of shilling right in the top. Okay, now listen, I didn't stream throughout December. Well, actually, the one Digital Archipelago, I was mostly on Prude's channel. So you better give your if you want to give me my 30th birthday present, you better donate. You better put in the super chats right now, and also Patreon.com. So it's Giant Production. I don't know why, but people are broke in December. They're brokies. They have no Bugattis. And so what happens is people tend to drop like flies around December on Patreon. So Patreon,
they're trying to pay for bail since they're in Romanian prison.
Yeah, exactly. So Patreon.com/Giant Productions. Please, I need to fulfill my Patreon goal. I've dropped a little bit under it because in the new year I am going to sort of maybe try to work out a deal with Lomez to do a painting/essay book. So we'll see how that goes. So please donate those super chats. Go to Patreon.com, Giant Productions. I have a PayPal link if you want, direct support. Oh boy. Oh, anyways, how have you been, Prude? How are things going? The holidays tends to screw you up in terms of productivity, but
Well, I've been rather productive on top of just. We had that wonderful stream with Charlemagne and Semiagog a while back. We're covering some of the U.S. government's interests in Poland. We reviewed Millennial for 5 hours with John D. and some friends on Semiagog's channel as well. It was a lot of fun. Between Christmas and getting some, Christmas video address out, I've been very busy on Substack. I just put a new one out yesterday called Technological Ascesis, and sort of our concerns on social media and, trying to incorporate some form of technological fasting. And then I will be recording this weekend with Semiagog. We'll be talking about deglobalization for prudent observations. Things have been very busy on my end, and I've got about 4 essays in the works. Most of them are going to be behind the paywall because a lot of that stuff's going to be in the essay collection that'll be published this summer. So very busy stuff.
Nice. That also reminds me that for all the people in the chat, now, I know some of you do not want to give money to Patreon because of, I can't say much in case they hear this. But but I will, in the new year, it's going to take some work, but I will have every paywall stuff up on Substack, and you can donate through that, the $5 a month on Substack, like what you do, Prude. But that's going to take some work. So I will do that. I think I'm going to have to focus on Substack. That's like truly one of the few anti-fragile platforms. And maybe I will have paywalled articles as well. But this Friday or Saturday, I am going to come out with a huge 20-pager about 2022. But it's more than that. It's more of it's got a lot of, when you work on something, you can't even describe it. It's sort of like that. It's about acceleration and the online world, and it's got a lot of Byung-Chul Han and Heidegger in it. So,
well, I mean, 2022 really was the year of putting the brick on the accelerator.
Yeah, exactly. That's yeah. So it started off as just a short reflection piece, but the problem is that I was talking about this with Default last night because we recorded an episode for Content Minded on the other works of Humdog, and I was saying to her, get me in all these places, maybe I could write for Unheard one day. But the thing is, when I sit down to write like shorter pieces, like an actual blogger, like back in the day, it never works out that way. I could never master the 800 to 1,000 word because it's like I just larded up with so many different things. And so that's my problem. But anyways, I'm we also were going to cover a bit of Dave's new article. You said it was pretty good. I was reading a little bit of it, but I
Well,
unfortunately
it
got
was
caught
funny
up
because
in.
he had the same issue that you were just talking about. Where we were in a group chat together, and he was just like, "Yeah, I could have gone longer, but I had to like trim. Otherwise, I wouldn't have stopped at like 5,000 words. I would have gone to 10,000." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I think we're seeing a return of the video essay in some form or fashion."
Mm,
Because I just don't. Everyone wants the live stream.
yeah.
But they don't tend. Unlike this, right? This stuff I think can age pretty well because a lot of the stuff that we maybe not this one, right? Because we're covering 2022, right? Maybe some predictions, but when we're covering, say, a Humdog essay or we're reviewing some movies or Serial Experiments Lane, all that holds up pretty well. But a lot of
Yeah.
live streams, they tend to not to because it's current events or things like that. That's why I think that to give AA credit, his separation of like artistic stuff, rank punditry, and then like a hardcore literature heavy topic, like that's the smart thing to do because one of them you can kind of like, oh yeah, it was a couple weeks ago versus
Yeah.
something that stands the test of time. And I think that the essay part of it, the video essay and the things that used to be traditional right-wing YouTube, I think that those will make a comeback as they're not profitable. Lord knows that's not the case. And we get more views on live streams nowadays than anything else. But I think that you want something that stands the test of time. And that's the way to go. And inside of
Yeah.
you, there are two types of wolves. One that is a nicotine stand, and another one is a caffeine stand. So here we are.
I have both actually, but
The traditional
I ran out
European
of blood.
breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. Who is breakfast? Bhutan's breakfast. But the video essay, I think the problem is like, if I like, okay, people that read the essays, why don't I just go to Substack and read it? But I guess like if you, I don't know, maybe because I don't feel like I have a particularly good voice, but
Well,
I guess
I think it's an overlap of audiences. So I mean, like my Substack has only got less close. We're very close to breaking 2,000, but 2,000 people that subscribe and are on the email list. Whereas on YouTube, we're very close to 9K. So it's just like the audience is different. They don't overlap in the same way that your audience on Odyssey is nowhere near the same of their political predilections as say your YouTube audience and vice versa. So.
True.
I think it's good to have overlap to make sure that there's the maximum exposure of your content. So that's why most of the time I'll do what Dave does and he'll put out a Substack and then record it real quickly. But I'm starting to do that less because there are some essays I don't want to record and make videos of because that'll be in the book. So
Yeah, true. Same with me when I start writing the book. But it's weird for me because I have to do the paintings that I have like planned out in my head or I've written down, and then I want to write, essays for them. So that's like a different process. But I know what you mean. It's like you debate like, oh, is this gold enough, for people to pay for it? Or if you don't put out good stuff, then people obviously aren't going to get the get. But anyways, that's insider baseball. Let's cover, I think, I don't know. I mean, obviously we have to talk about the war, but not like,
oh yeah.
Maybe more stuff around it because people pretty much know my position. You keep pretty ambiguous about it.
Well, I don't take a pro or anti side. I just think that my position has always been I take a rather realist sense of it. The gut knee jerk reaction is that, like it would be nice to see Russia win this, but at the same time, I'm looking at what the USG has done to bring it like full on to bear, and whether it's pretty much the economic collapse of Europe or even, the ECB bank head was basically like, yeah, we are going to see a recession and we are going to see an increased cost in energy and living, on top of the fact that, the UK is fully in line with what the US is doing, and Rishi Sunak is throwing them a bone. But what are they doing? They're still on board with this. So, I mean, realistically speaking, I do have a moral stake in it. I don't want this to continue in any way, shape, or form because, the moment you played the blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, this wasn't just a fight against Russia and this proxy conflict. You more or less just told the rest of the European continent to get in line with you or else suffer. And so, that's been my position is that what the U.S. government is doing for the sake of what has been its long-stated project by its intelligentsia, the complete collapse and dismembering of the Russian state, is a stupid policy. Basically, I think it's death wish because you don't do that to another nuclear armed state. And I mean, here we are. We have people that are so blatantly careless and sort of scofflaw at what we used to be afraid of 20, 40 years ago. We went from threads to the day after to, fuck it, let me die in a nuclear war. And I just think that kind of nihilism is really, really unhealthy for both leaders and regular people.
Yeah, I think what we can do, though, because the first big incident of the year was the truckers, right? So I think
feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it?
I know, right? I know. So here's what we're gonna do, because me, Goran, and Constantine on the War Report covered the minutia of specific events. There's some things that I think we forgot, like for example, recently the death of the Pope, the defeat of Bolsonaro. But I think what we can do instead of this is what happened, let's sort of try to I guess what you do in your streams. But geopolitically, I notice with prudent observations, you have to almost focus on the contemporary situation in light of the IR literature that you're reading. Yeah. So let's focus on, I guess, let's do some speculative futurism here, where we're focusing on the implications of the sort of true implications of each of these events. Now, with Russia's ambiguous, because when we look to their relationship with China, let's save the multipolar world stuff for the end, okay? Let's save it for the end. Just for the get. The end, we'll go to the Dave's essay, and we'll go to the multipolar world potentiality. Truckers, okay. The inquiry happened. Literally, and shout out to Horace Finkelstein, my good friend. # nothing happening, okay? Trudeau is not going to be overturned. He's not going to face any Privy Council. And in Canada, we have a vote of non-confidence. In America, you have impeachment. It's essentially the same, but it works differently, right?
Yeah.
Nothing happening. Trudeau is going to be here at least, unless things get really bad economically, which they might. People predict the housing crisis, the housing markets especially. Trudeau looks like his position's pretty solid until 25 or 24. 25. So literally nothing happening, okay? But in terms of populist protest movements, where do you see the future in terms of an event like seizing? And by the way, I will say one more thing.
Okay.
The narrative by the leftoids in Canada, this is the psychic mind poison of being a leftist in Canada. You hate America, but everything you do must defer to America. So what is the truckers like? Like that one thing that happened in January 2 years ago, which we can't see on YouTube. That's the sort of threading the needle that they're making.
Yeah.
That the thing that happened at that particular month 2 years ago and that particular date, can't say it.
Pretty sure you can.
Yeah. Wait, can you say the date? The 6th?
Yeah, I have a whole video on it,
oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's the two-story state in January 6th or something like that. But I did that last year on the anniversary of it. But
yeah.
And the Old Glory Club's actually going to talk about it this Friday on the anniversary. So they'll be having fun with people who were there. So it'll be a fun time. I don't know. Canadian leftists, I feel like, are the battered housewives of the progressive machine here in America. We're like, well, we're not Americans, but, we're going to take our black eye and do exactly what, daddy progressive tells me to do. And so I don't know. I mean, what we saw in Brazil and the trucker protests, or what happened in America in
Netherlands and France.
In the Netherlands and France, between the Yellow Vests, the farmers' protests, I don't see them having too much of an impact anymore, because here in America and Canada, well, what's the easiest way to do it? You either bring the full security state up to bear, which they were threatening to do with the War Measures Act in Canada, or you do what you always do, which is you win the war of public opinion. So what did they do to the Canadian truckers? Well, they're
evil. They
got those fresh out of Amazon plastic packages where you could still see the folding wrinkle lines and wave them around.
That one photojournalist actually sued Trudeau's office.
Really?
For smearing him, for saying that Trudeau it was a journalist or something. There was some lawsuit involving Trudeau's top. So it just so happened that Trudeau's top personal photographer, because every president, every prime minister, they have their own. Like the guy that Trudeau Sr. had became pretty famous after. Like the guy that Reagan had became pretty famous. The court photographers.
Mm-hmm.
Trudeau's personal court photographer just so happened to take a picture of that newly minted crease line Austrian painter's flag. with the Far Eastern symbol on it. So there was some funny business where they smeared the reporter that caught him or something. There's some lawsuit involved, but it's not going to go anywhere. Again, we all know, like, this is typical reactionary point. This is like Moldbug circa 2007. This is Carl Schmitt in the
1934.
Yeah. Those who determine the state of exception, like XXX ... right? Meaning that if you expect this inquiry to go anywhere in terms of Trudeau, like not fully to the letter of the law, exercising the War Measures Act, they don't call it the war. They call it something else. What do they call it? If people in the chat enlighten me, the Emergencies Act. I think that's what they call it.
Oh, okay.
Like if you knew, if you think for 1 second that this is going to go anywhere, no. But what's more important is, I think, the point that you were trying to make, which is, okay, mass protest movements that are able to jam up public infrastructure. You would think that would be hugely important. And Gilets jaunes have been doing this literally since 2012. I think, like 2013.
Well, the thing that Charlemagne had pointed out, and I think that he, myself, and Oren McIntyre kind of also discussed on a stream literally like a year ago, was that, okay, the question really becomes, do you have the ability to sort of throw your morals out the window, right? Especially if you're a trucker, right? You're the key aspect of all infrastructure for food, gasoline, electricity, home goods, medicines, etc. Are you willing to starve and or hurt people? And I think that's been the primary question is that what sort of, to give some credence to say like Athenian Starcher, Barbaric Disciple, is that if you are going to play with one arm behind your back on the grounds of morality, you will get crushed by those that will have no problem killing you. And so that I think is going to be the principal objection going forward. Is just that, well, these big, mean, evil truckers, they're just like Austrian painters. It's just like 1933 all over again. It's like they're coming here to burn down the Reichstag. And it's like, no, these people just literally want to be left alone. And I think that's the other key aspect of protest movements is that you have essentially, as others like to say, fisted by Foucault and such, like, these grill Americans, they really do just want to be left alone. And so when they take action, it's always half-hearted measures because they don't want to get into a fight, not realizing that these conflicts are existential.
Yeah, but people really, I think, when people like are actually being affected in terms of, like, I know this is like a leftoid point, material conditions, that is, I think, when we'll see like genuine, like, because really when you target public infrastructure, it's funny because it's a non-violent way, but it's very of vital importance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the way that they worked around it was that these, like you were saying, these working class people, they eventually their resources are going to basically just burn out, right? And with the truckers, we saw this early on. There was people that were helping with legal counsel and everything. But another thing too is that the sort of the way that the media just essentially and these networks of these anti-you-know-what people, the way that they can manufacture evidence against them. Like there's this guy, and not that I agree with them, I think Red Ice interviewed him. That was a trucker, but then he was arrested for some gun charge. I don't know. What's his name? I forget. Mackenzie something. But again, I have no association with anybody, by the way. And so they'll like literally make up like groups and like this far right group that's like started off as a meme. Like they'll do that, right? Gilets jaunes, they didn't exactly. Later on, they tried to smear them as like this far right group. But because you had like, communists and tankies and people of that nature also protesting with them, it was sort of like the first bipartisan like populist movement, at least in the, like, apart from the anti-globalization movement, I would say like the first serious one in the 21st century. Because you could say that Occupy Wall Street was thoroughly leftist, the Tea Party was thoroughly like normie con, boomer, like people like boomers that listen to Alex Jones, that later became co-opted by the GOP. So it wasn't a true like bipartisan protest movement. But I feel like, but that's still, it's not a point to like the Tinkzorgs of the world either, because that sort of like bipartisan political movement cannot exist nowadays. right?
No, I mean they've done such a good job at literally
Yeah.
creating political speciation. I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah.
or there's even stories where they'll be like, yeah, we like started doing TRT on like libs and they started voting Republican or whatever. And it's like, well, literally, I think we're kind of speciating ourselves
Yeah.
through a very political lens on a biological level. So it's very hard to find issues where I think people can come together genuinely. Like it's not the World Trade protests of Seattle in the
No.
1990s. I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon. Although I will hold a caveat to that. Again, it kind of depends on the material conditions in say like Europe. In some
Yes.
places, I think that we're going to see. I don't know. They keep trying to psyop and go for riots in France more and more between that Athena movie that came out earlier on Netflix that was basically Camp of the Saints. I think we're going to see something major there.
Yeah, but they love
Happen.
rioting in France. That's their thing from forever, since Bastille. Like that's
Well, yeah, but it's a little different when it's a bunch of like Algerians and Moroccans doing it, not
true,
Frenchmen. But
Yeah.
we'll see. I find it particularly interesting because I think the real lesson, and I mean, there's been a whole lot of discourse. I know I've noticed on Telegram about Occupy Wall Street all over again. But I mean, the real lesson since the 90s onward is that these political divergences and speciations of individuals and tribes and people that don't, by nature of red team, blue team, they will always hate each other most of the time, right? At least on the media, at least on these issues. And the sovereign who decides the exception will always tell you that red guy bad, orange man bad. And so you have to make that comparison to lump them for the ultimate purposes of telling from a top-down perspective, this is the enemy to the rest of your group. And so I think it's going to be very hard to see any kind of heckin' bipartisan left-wing, right-wing coalition on any particular issue. The one thing that I have noticed is some leftists that are not on this whole antinatalism game, which I find rather interesting when they're more concerned about population sizes. But outside of that, I mean, I don't see too much because, again, when you have discussions on, say, things like regenerative agriculture, like we saw earlier this year, back in September, the whole groyping of Ashley Colby, this sort of like regenerative agriculture, who got published in the American Mind. Turns out she had a bunch of lefty tweets, but a lot of her points weren't half bad upon reading her article and some of her work. And it's just like, wow, by the nature of we're not going to. But at the same time, right, I think that comes with the fact that everyone is kind of woke on the friend-enemy distinction game. And I think everyone thinks kind of long-term now rather than, short-term, which I think has its benefits, but also has some rather large blind spots that I think we need to consider.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, well, I mean, people pretty much know the game since a few years ago, about people like Rhizoma and Twink Zorg and John Dios, like those type of people. Like, by the way, fuck John Dios. He's been a total prick to me. I don't know why. He thinks I'm like an Austrian patriot, that I don't know, something about like I'm a leftist for Trump or whatever. I don't know what his deal
leftist for Trump.
I don't know what his deal is, but no. It's like those type of people. Like, I think we pretty much know the game. Like the recent thing with the Waffle House Butch, that was like quite funny. I don't know what you want to talk about that one. Maybe we'll save that one for later.
I just thought it was like, okay, you found a waifu for 5 seconds, then you got your dreams crushed when you found out that she was she paid a toll and things like that. So it's just like, well, what were you expecting? Did you really think that this was going to be your like pixie manic
Shield
dream
Maiden
girl, Aryan shield maiden that was going
Valkyrie
to like deliver you from the hordes? Like, no, she was reading some Kendi book or whatever. Like, I don't know. I think that's another thing too. Is that like
could she read though? That's
well, that's the real question, right?
No, because someone was saying, like, I'm not going to say exactly what this Amarnite said, but that like basically if a white girl like that skinny is going to fight like a mass, they basically have grown up in that sort of, it's like, it's not, you know what I mean? It's like, we all know, like, having grown up around construction my whole life, like, I'm not.
Well, as our friend Matthew the Stoat says, this is just barista discourse. You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
we're arguing over someone who works at a Waffle House in less than ideal economic conditions, and I'm
Yeah.
saying that very nicely. So
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like
But culturally, I mean, like it's it's like it's not something to be lionized, but at the same time, it's not something to be like, you know, totally like maniacal about. Like I think the problem with Twink Zorg, oh, I gotta stop saying Twink Zorg. The
nah.
problem, yeah, who cares? Who cares? But the problem is that I feel
Not
like
like I'm ever interviewing him, so
yeah, I think I've only seen the Kashuda interview with him, but
I don't know. Good Old Boys has him on
Good
more
Old Boys
times
have had
than
him.
I care to
Yeah,
count.
yeah, but no, but what I mean is I think like the problem is, and this can also go to like going forward into the decade, what the permutation of the like lower classes and even the middle classes that are going to like take an economic hit, and they're probably going to descend a few steps if not more. We're the sort of like speciation that you were saying, like this is what Schwab Real Human says, that there's going to be cryptids in America that we're going to see pop up everywhere, of new people, and new ethnogeneses of people. But but apart from that humorous point, well, maybe tragicomic point, not humorous, I would say the problem with like people like that is that they have the same sort of like romanticized ideal that the new, like not the new left, but rather the contemporary left abandoned literally like a few decades ago. Or I would say generously, maybe at least before 2016, of like the lower classes being this sort of beasts of burden of the capitalist regime that are objects of pity. This is the Nietzschean critique of leftism, like they're objects of pity, right? But that idea is gone. Now they're chuds. Now they're object of contempt. And the real working class are non-binary trans people of color. That's the real working class in America. Not the trucker, not the guy that not Peter Nemitz that is working in the Las Vegas water treatment plant. No, he's scum now. He's a chud. Well, actually, they would hate him because never mind. We all know Peter Nemitz's political opinions, but but the point being is that older ideal of the left, I noticed that these, largely outside. I'm not going to say this right now. A lot of them are outside of America, and I'm Canadian, I know, but in Canadian, we're kind of like, when America,
You're stuck with us. I'm sorry.
yeah, exactly.
By nature of geography, a lot of our culture and our politics is going to
Yeah.
come upstream, and it will
Yeah.
it'll hit you guys, which is unfortunate in a lot of ways, because that's been the great tragedy I think out of 2022 is that
Yeah.
it was Americanization in full force. And I'm like, all aspects of the culture war has transcended in places where even our friend Conscious Caracol, one of the earliest conversations I had with him in January of last year, because we keep in contact pretty regularly, but for a period of time before we got busy with work, we would used to like have almost weekly like just conversations over the phone.
Yeah.
And one of the things he had said was, he's like, one of the things I hate the most about the internet and the fact that like American like political discourse is the lingua franca of the world is that he can walk in somewhere like Johannesburg or Pretoria and people that look like him are still speaking Americanized English. And that those kind of political issues of race and gender are now being taken on by like the ANC. I mean, even Emmanuel Macron was smart enough, and we could have a whole other conversation about him, but I mean, even he was just like, whoa, this like American leftist woke bullshit shouldn't work in France, because even he knows that if you weaponize that with the migrant population inside his country, you're in for a world of hell to pay. And so, I mean, 2022 saw that in full force. I mean, we saw... And I think this also kind of plays in with like the bot question with the Twitter buyout and then AI art. I mean, we're going to go everywhere today, folks. So sorry. But like, as a tangent, this also makes me think about, what else did 2022 bring besides this mass widespread Americanization? I mean, it also brought the Americanization of memes to a more full front where why are a bunch of Indian Twitter accounts on this like NAFO thing, the fellas, with the whole conflict? Indian? Some of them are. I've seen a few. I try my best to stay away from it, but then I know some people
block them on site. By the way, block them immediately.
Oh, you should. You should.
Yeah, it's just common practice.
And so I think that we've seen like the full weaponization of bots, psyops, and I think AI art is going to play a major role in the future of how that's done, because our friend Morgoth shared a post that he just put into one of the AI art generators about like, I think his prompt was something about like a overcrowded hospital in China, and they were almost kind of realistic, furry, blurry photos of what could be taken out of the news from when COVID started 2 years ago. And you're just thinking to yourself, kind of makes you wonder. Like, we've seen for the last, 3 years now, all sorts of concerns about AI art, deep fakes, and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the warfare is unrestricted, and for all we know, we could be, hashing out our debates over things that aren't even real, in the same way that you had American retired military officials retweeting War Thunder and DCS footage at the beginning of the war.
Oh God,
like,
yeah.
I just think that like we're in the desert of the real again, and it's even more terrifying because the desert of the real looks very, very real.
But these things have been going. I think they've been going on literally forever. These concerns, but although in the realm of science fiction, I mean, even in Star Trek, they had a private little war. You know that episode?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you were to determine the course of significant domestic but also geopolitical events based on simulations of things, then that would that's like we're living in a Borges novel, you know what I mean? A Borges short story. It's funny because me and Wide Dog were talking about that. By the way, go to after this. I content minded the mega episode 30 with Wide Dog. His vocoder is different. It's much more clear. I know people complained last time he was on, but we talk about AI art. We talk about many, many different things in politics and the Muskin, the Uber Muskin Führer. And we actually, what's funny? We recorded it before the midterms, and our predictions were more or less accurate. That that Fetterman might get in. That what else did we say? That it won't be like a huge like red wave for like obvious reasons that I'm not sure you can even say on YouTube now. It's but anyways, go to it. Patreon.com for the full 5 hours. There you go. Please, if you want to support the content renaissance, go on Patreon. And also my, PayPal and buy me a coffee and all that stuff. And also Prude's links are down there as well. Prude's links are down there. All of his, his Subscribe Star, his Substack, his Find My Friends. There you go. His buy me a coffee. Anyways, but what we skipped over though is I think before we get on to a bit more with the sort of the Shield Maiden discourse and another how 2022 has affected sort of like what someone said in the comments that I highlighted, the full submersion into the acceleration process, which my article deals with. I think how will the regime contain further populist movements? I feel in Canada it's very easy because like Donald Trump Gaming was saying, I know I shouldn't read it because I want to, I really want those super chats. It was my 30th birthday, guys. And you guys didn't get a chance to type, the 30th, the birthday boy. So anyways, oh boy.
He needs to pay for wizarding school, everybody.
Exactly. Oh God. Yeah, exactly. But I feel bad because when someone like has a banger comment in the replies, I will highlight it, even though I want to be like a total bastard and say, no, only super chats will get commented on. But anyways,
I do both.
Yeah. But Donald Trump Gaming's got a good point that I highlighted, which is everyone over 40 in Canada, basically boomers that watch the CBC, they think the truckers are legitimately like that one event that happened in the States 2 years ago around this time, actually. That they think that they're like this far right, and the media subversion was effective, more or less. But I feel like as time, especially as economic conditions go forward into the decade, we're still relatively young into the decade, right? Will there be a proliferation of these protest movements? But how will the regime deal with them? Because we know that Gilets Jaunes, what happens is essentially the regime will eat the loss of like public infrastructure being, at least temporarily suspended or, massive property damage. I mean, we've seen this in 2021. it's funny you talk
we
about
saw it in 2020, although that was more state sanctioned. But
yeah. Well, same with 2021, right? Like that. What we noticed was that both in Canada and America, again, Canadian leftoids being like spiritually cucked by the American progressives, they had to have the sort of the mass graves thing, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, you had the summer of Pink Floyd. So you have sort of the state sanctioned, well, in this case, it was burning of churches. It wasn't mass riots. It was at least 60 churches being torched, right? Like,
I would argue for spiritual reasons that was a far more effective demoralization campaign.
Yes, it was.
Because I mean, Americans, I think we're a little more culturally used to a certain subset of the population having a break from the zoo kind of moment, whereas
oh god,
I think we're used to that. 1992, Rodney. We've seen it since the beginning of all aspects of civil rights history. It's always been associated with riots. The
1968 Democrat Convention.
All of the bombings of the 1970s. They literally attempted, and they did bomb the Capitol building back in the 1970s.
And they weren't just all like people of color. They were like a lot of white activists.
Oh, a lot of white activists too. Or not to mention like Angela Davis, who had supplied arms that killed people, and Bill Ayers. They're all people that get to speak in front of universities. I had Angela Davis give a lecture at one of my college campuses, and I'm like, I tweeted out the other day because I saw some Norwooding man in a dress to hide his gynomastia talk about how everyone's a little bit trans, and I was like, back in my day, communists and killers used to speak at my college campus, not these Norwooding, But it's just
we'll see. We'll see more violence from that demographic of LGBT CIA. But I mean, listen, to all of them, like, you got to step up your game. Like, literally, these people used to try to bomb the Pentagon. Like, what are you doing? What are you gonna do? You're gonna go there with your.
You're gonna act. You're gonna act. That's it.
Well, some of them
you could do better.
Some you could do better. But notice how they don't target the way that the leftoids in the 70s and the 80s did. They don't really target government infrastructure. Ironically enough, they target the chuds, or they'll like have their John Browning gun club and like have the drag time story hour being defended by veterans who, because of the American system not giving them proper mental health services, they decided to take, pills of another variety.
Yeah,
you saw that, right? Defending the drag time.
They had it in Idaho, and this is a point that I don't know who made it. I think it was Martin, but Martin had made the point that look. These people are way more powerful than you recognize, because if they can organize a bunch of armed terrorists in deep red Idaho over, trans, drag queen story hour, that illustrates what you're dealing with and what you're up against. That they are, for starters, armed. Secondly, well organized, and three, well funded to get people out there, even if they don't live there, or even if they do. That says a lot about what this asymmetrical Cold War looks like. And that I think is going to be a major factor that we're going to see in 2023, especially in 2024.
Did Kyle's trial happen in 2022?
Happened in 2021.
Okay,
because I had the not guilty on all. Yeah, it was around Thanksgiving time. I think he got off on Thanksgiving. Yeah, it was the ultimate Thanksgiving surprise, 2021. But yeah.
But in 2022, I think that apart from the lack of major riots, because there was this shift into geopolitics again. I think if that were to happen, if there was a sort of a LGBTQ CIA version of it, then there won't be, put it this way, there won't be another Kyle Rittenhouse, in my opinion. They're not going to let that happen, where he gets off.
Well, here's what I think might happen, just to interject here. There was that article that came out on the 29th from the Daily Mail about a trans woman, 22, charged with stabbing his father to death.
Oh, I saw
and
that.
Wounding his 19-year-old sister, calling 911 and falsely reported. I think we're going to see more of that.
There were trans people celebrating in the comments.
Which is why I think we're going to see more of that.
Yes, exactly. We're going to, because that, I mean, this is an old point, the anarcho-tyranny, but I think during the decade, we're going to see cases where certain people will be above the law by virtue of their political status as a tool of the regime. Now, will they individually get off like this, just for YouTube's sake, woman, will they get off? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe if they could prove that, oh, well, by not letting me transition, it's inherently abusive. If this was Canada, this person would get off right away.
Oh yeah.
No doubt, no doubt. But I feel that as the decade approaches, 2022 has seen not just that case, but there was a few other ones. And the sort of the arming and the drive towards the like mass psychosis of leftist activists thinking that fascism is around the corner and saying that this is why we have to arm themselves, which I mean, really, when you see the discourse, it's incredible considering the amount of state power that they actually do garner and have. There was a thread today about how they, in the deepest of red states in Idaho, managed to push in their agenda, right? Through coordinated selective targeting of various lawmakers and so forth. There was a sort of, I think it was Darren Beatty that like linked to it or something, someone like that. So you will see as time progresses into the decade, 2022 really revealed the cards in terms of things are getting serious. But the difference being is that when one of them targets a chud in one of these riots, who do you think is going to get off? There won't be. That's, you know what I mean? Like,
we know, right? Like,
we know.
It's been that way. I mean, I do really think it kicked off after Bush Sr.
Yeah.
Because what did Janet Reno do? Janet Reno looked at Desert Storm and realized that there was a lot of people not happy with where things were going politically.
Yeah.
And that were veterans and that had some training. And so what did they do? They started cranking down on militias. They had government involvement in plenty of other domestic homegrown activities. And so the playbook has kind of been going for 30 years. It's just that, now you've got even more lumpen proles and disgusting violinist type creatures that are the ones doing it. And I think that we will see more of that in the States, especially like we were just talking about how in the midterms, right, that happened this year, that disgusting fat whale Latinx creature that was talking about, Zoomers.
Too fat even for me.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
that's an indictment right there.
So all the things that just come to my mind in this is that, well, we're going to see more of it. That's the other thing about Kyle Rittenhouse is that he got off on this skin of his teeth.
Yeah.
Like there was no way under any other situation, right? I don't, if the circumstances were different by just a hair, right? Say one of the people that was offed by Kyle in self-defense wasn't, say, a disgusting, sex offender or something like that, probably would have been a lot different.
Yeah.
And so it's not in the way that we want, right? It's not going to be some base
or a guy literally released from mental institution that we,
yeah.
I think also the way, like, I remember when he got off, listening to the radio, I think it was News Talk 610 or something, and the way they portrayed, like in Canada in general, the CBC, and the national, the way they portrayed the case was like basically Kyle was like up on the judge's lap, and he's like, basically it's rigged, and like that's like that was how the normie leftoid media portrayed it, as like Kyle Rittenhouse had like, it was like for some reason it was like rigged in his favor. Like it's totally ridiculous when you actually look at the defense and you look at how the guy was badgering him and like essentially breaking a lot of precedences just to try to hang him. Like what was the guy's name? Berenger, the persecutor?
Binger.
Binger, yeah.
Because everyone had their own set of Binger memes, because he had like, he was holding the AR pointing like towards he had the Reddit, safety finger.
Yeah.
It was a good time. Good time.
Yeah. And he was I remember when the judge flipped out on him, which I believe iHypocrite has those compilations on his channel.
Yeah.
Like he's like, you're on the border, right? I don't know what you're doing right now. Which he was on the border of essentially violating Kyle's constitutional rights, And I believe he was an Obama appointee as well as a persecutor. There was some Obama things going on behind there, but that case won't happen again. But I feel like this goes into mass populist protests as well, and how the regime will contain them, because there will be more. I do predict that housing will essentially tumble within this decade in North America and Europe. I mean, forget about it. A lot of major American cities, if they approach Vancouver and like City of London levels of like housing becoming like absolutely unlivable and affordable, what do you think that will happen in the coming decade? In 2022, I mean, I think the awareness of which was, I think, was a hidden story because of the war and the truckers and everything, was the whole like discourse around BlackRock and a lot of the acquisitions. I believe in 2022 there was a huge acceleration of them. So that's another hidden little Easter egg from 2022 that will influence the decade. It's really, I guess what we would say is, given the pictures of what's happening, where does the North America, because we know what's happening in Europe, but where is the North American city going to look like this decade in the 2020s?
I don't think we've seen it yet.
You don't think we've seen it yet?
Okay, so here's my take / argument for it is that like a decade culturally will always end, 4, 5, 6 years after the decade ends.
Yeah.
Like the 2010s really doesn't end, I think, until 2014.
Yes.
And there's usually some culminating event that brings the end of things. Like the 90s ends in 2003 with the invasion of Iraq.
Yeah.
Like that was the final nail in the coffin for the 1990s, was the Iraq being invaded. Because that was the more publicized event between the two invasions. Whereas, I think the 2000s finally comes to an end probably around 2012 with Barack Obama's re-election. And what
I would say Gamergate, but
I think really the Great Awakening, but I think it really kind of kicks off with Obama's second term's desire to fundamentally transform the country. Gamergate definitely is probably the final nail in the coffin, and that brings about the 2010s. And the 2010s don't end, I think, until 2016 with Trump. And so I think and even then, right, I don't think that like the 2010s don't end with Trump. I don't know. Maybe the 2010s just ended on January, 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. But I don't know I don't think we've hit what, 2020's culture is going to look like yet until maybe this year or next. I don't know what the next big event is going to look like. Maybe the war is the event of the 2020s, right? Where
I think so.
It really is. And I think that there's a really good case to make for that, because really the domestic stuff doesn't matter, because we're getting to see what happens when you start plucking at global supply chains. And I mean, really, you could say the coup was, because that's when it really did start, where, we have this great interconnected world that we were promised to have in the 1990s with the World Trade Organization and all this stuff about free trade. And now all of a sudden, what did it usher in? Well, it brought in a new generation of warfare, because unless you're physically on the ground, no one knows what's happening. I mean, you can have
the ambiguity of war.
You can have a really good picture, but it's still really ambiguous. That's why I opted not to cover it. At least in terms of like a regular sort of war report situation, there are much better people who can do it. But then secondly, what did we also get? Well, what came with globalization was a global panopticon. And so what did the Western world enter? It entered a biomedical security state, which has ushered in all the sorts of transhumanist shit that we see from like the Davos crowd. So maybe that really is the 2020s, is the decade of the, transhumanist age to come.
Because I think that, well, again, like in my article, which I keep pumping up, it's it's sort of like the feedback loops of media and memeplexes and a lot of the sort of currencies of the online world becoming also filtering into common day reality. The war is a pretty good example of that, where it seems that the sort of impermeable methods of like social clout or standing or legitimacy, that in things that aren't very readily apparent but are apparent in the online world and takes a little bit of time to like leak out into meat space, those things have all accelerated in 2022 essentially. But like, for example, like when it comes to like with your reporting, I've followed the war pretty closely on the ground, because I do believe that there will be massive geopolitical implications into the decade, depending on what happens.
It's already started. I mean,
it's already started. Yeah.
I mean, between the two biggest ones, it's going to be about global distribution of food, primarily wheat, because despite agreements that have been made, right? What do Russia and Ukraine provide the most of towards the UN's World Food Program? It's grain. And where does that all mainly go? The Middle East and Africa. So we're going to see, I really think, famine in the next couple of years. And secondly, you're going to see quote unquote climate refugees because of said the war, and it'll just get labeled as climate issues. And then the second one is about technology, because what did this war also do? There are 2 companies inside Ukraine that produce, 60% of all semiconductor-grade neon for manufacturing, that almost grinded the world's, chip supplies to a halt when the war started, still has. And so what did that do? It kickstarted great power competition again between the United States and China. You got the USA Chips Act, you got the Taiwanese Semiconductor Manufacturing Company trying to move some plants to Japan and America and Arizona, and Japan is this close to, tossing Article 9 of the Constitution out the window for them to be a fully armed country again. I mean, I think you already saw it, and I think it's here to stay. And that's what makes it really dangerous.
Yeah, there are turbo American people that that feel that China, because of the zero what thing, that they're essentially that they'll experience pushback and they'll go back into just managing their immensely large population. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think they can, because to even just manage 1 billion people, that's going to require geopolitical expansion. China is not the China of the 15th century. You know what I mean?
It's not the China of the Opium Wars either.
Yeah.
No. But the other issue is demography. This is where I have to give Zion some credit. Is that demographics are going to matter? They are going to age. They have
a huge demographic bottleneck in China.
Yeah, I mean they do.
With men.
Men, the sex ratio is ridiculous between the number of men and women. Some men just don't want to get married. Neither do some women. On top of the fact that you have roughly close to 200 million people in China, last time I checked the numbers, that are over the age of 65 as is, and that number is only going to grow. Yeah. And so, I mean, that'll be interesting to see what happens in the coming years, which is why I think that we're going to see a lot more. I think we're going to see a lot less, say, for instance, in the former Soviet republics, when China invests, they typically are against localization, right? They don't want, although the one place they didn't do that was Kazakhstan, which I find interesting. But they don't want native.
There were tribal reasons for that.
The
leadership in Kazakhstan,
yeah, but they didn't want native Kyrgyzstan's individuals to be the heads or to work in the factories or whatever, right? They wanted Chinese leadership there. I think we're going to see a little less of that in the future, and I think that in the predictions I told to Schwab, right, when he did his 2023 prediction space, was the 2 big things I see geopolitically happening that are going to kind of get the world's attention. Is one, I think we will see some ecological disaster get a lot of Western media attention this year about electronic waste, because we ship it off to Africa most of the time.
Yeah.
And they usually just scrap it with substantial damages to the environment, not to mention their health. So
that's what I was going to say, to them themselves.
To them, cancer.
The kids picking apart the computer chips. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a sad sight to see.
Yeah, very sad.
I think that they'll get really concerned about the ecological consequences of that more than they do the Africans, which that tends to be the case all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And then the second thing is going to be that in order to counter this CHIPS Act thing, I think you're going to see 19th century natural resource geopolitics play a game once more, because China still has a pretty substantial leverage on rare earth minerals and elements.
Everywhere, Afghanistan, South America, Africa in particular.
All the places that they've been happily investing in.
I wonder why.
Who's been the largest investor in the lithium triangle since 2000? It's been China. And who has a growing relationship with CELAC, this sort of counter organization of American states? It's China. And what have they started doing? They started sharing intelligence about, counter narcotics operations and investing in telecommunications. They literally got the country of Uruguay in the last 2 years to flip its position on the national recognition and sovereignty of Taiwan. So that's one less country out of 13, 12 now that recognize Taiwan as an independent country. Absolutely. I mean, that's a whole different ball game there.
Well, apparently China is also aiding in the negotiation talks between Erdogan. Is it Erdogan or Erdogan? Erdogan and Syria and Afghanistan. Yeah. So China has its tendrils in the Middle East because of Afghanistan, which ironically enough is what Zbigniew Brzezinski predicted in the 1990s, unless America were to have invaded. But what did they do for 20 years in Afghanistan? Nothing. The British would basically, what they did in Afghanistan in the 19th century, or 18th or 19th century? 18th century?
19th.
Yeah, 19th, which is essentially, if they have any resources, they'll set up some crown corporation that'll go in there and, essentially administer some, the East India Company, right? Like it's, America did not do that with all of the rare earth minerals required for computing power in Afghanistan. Or I guess they did it with the opium, but like that, we didn't have to admit that one. But it's fascinating how we didn't do anything besides rudimentary policing and administrating in Afghanistan. Maybe we taught the girls about, I guess we taught them about feminism, but that's, the rare earth minerals, forget about it, right? But that's what I mean. Like I feel like geopolitically, this was the year that will have massive implications into the future. Now, what I was going to say is, I think turbo American people, saying that China will essentially regress into themselves. What populations near China has a lot of women besides North Korea? The Caucasus, Russia. Will there be a voluntary golden horde? Basically, the Russians will let in Chinese men. I don't think so. Maybe
No,
no.
I don't see that one happening.
They certainly don't like African women in China, so that's off the table as well.
I mean, most of Asia doesn't like African populations in general. That's why even Japanese like laundry commercials, they'll put the black guy into the washing machine and out comes a Japanese man.
That one. Yeah, that became
Americans don't know racism until they've traveled abroad. That's all I'm going to say, folks.
Yeah, but no, but what I mean is that what will China do with this excess male population? Like, because China, like, out of all the places that think of their population as human stock, we hate to say it, the Chicoms, there's more blind spots than people think, though, when it comes to day-to-day administration of people. In big cities, yes, but in those heartland industrial provinces, there's a lot of things that go on that they don't want the West to know about, in terms of like corruption and the housing crisis in China, which is a crisis, by the way. But when it comes to, I think, Xi Jinping's ambitions into this decade, and what he wants to do by basically cementing his like quasi-Maoist position, the only man to seek a third term besides Chairman Mao, if I recall. I think he knows what needs to be done in China, but it does seem kind of like an insurmountable task. But I don't know. I mean, is it good for America then? Or is it bad? Or is it, the rest of the world, Europe? I think Europe, there's probably people in Europe that are looking to China saying, well, I guess if America's turning us into a vassal state and doesn't care about us, maybe I'm better off with the Chinese. The Australians have no choice in the coming decades, I think. The Australians apparently just bought some HIMARS, which I don't know why. I mean, they're an island. What do they need them for, right? But I guess, I don't know, some kind of deal. Maybe Furious can educate us in that. But no, but I think like Australia, Canada, we don't have a choice because our relationship is so cemented with the Chinese. But in the coming decade, will China ensure their geopolitical position? Will they start to ignore orders that are given to them by the UN, which is basically America? And I do want to go back to your point about Americanization this year as well. That will determine the next decade. But yeah, go ahead, Prue. Where do you see China even going in the future? Do you think that they will take Taiwan with Xi Jinping? I mean, who knows, right?
I think the smart thing for them to do would be to take it without a shot. That's why, I mean, I think if you could start pressuring and doing much more political cultural leverage, that would probably bide your time, because economically, I think it's a lot more easier to finance and propagate elections and to illustrate your point culturally through media, broadcast, memes, the whole bit there. I think it's a lot cheaper than it would be to do a full-on slugfest with the United States and, the Pacific Fleet that keeps, getting closer and closer. But at the same time, right, they also, when, they had the whole bit about Taiwan over the last 2 years, we've had some major clashes. I mean, what happened this year? You had the whole Nancy Pelosi Taiwan visit that kind of felt like this really big showdown, which turned out not to be. And so
in the 60s with Russia, they had a few of those. They had more than a few. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, we almost went to nuclear war in the 60s over Cuba.
Then the Americans had to get involved and said, well, we don't exactly agree with nuclear war. And the Moscow capitulated, I believe, under Brezhnev. And it's like, well, I guess nuclear war would be bad for the bottom line,
Yeah. You think? I like to think that that's the case for even our current conflict is that nuclear war is bad for the bottom line. Will these raw dog neoliberal like market oriented folks will they finally get to the point and be like maybe radiating the population and decreasing our workforce by 20 IQ points is probably not a good idea, but then again maybe they do. So
well, maybe the currency will be bottle caps in the future. So
oh boy, aren't I safe?
But in terms of China's population, where do you see that going? I mean, do you think there will be massive population stagnation and that China will, Xi Jinping in particular, will start to panic, or maybe who comes after him?
Well, it's like we talked about on the New Year's stream, right? Like there is going to be a demographics bomb. I mean, the TFR in all parts of the world has been dropping dramatically for the last 20 years. It's not just the Western developed world, right? And so I think that it'll be an interesting case study to see what nations do what, because the Western option has been what they like to call replacement or replenishment migration, where they're easier to control in major metropolitan areas, which is why you're watching cities from Atlanta to New York City to Austin to San Francisco turn into, I mean, almost every major city in America is kind of slowly turning into New York City. Whereas other countries that have a much more homogenous viewpoint, a much more anti-immigrant xenophobic standpoint. I even hate to use the word xenophobia. They're just not xenophilic. They have a love for home and people. Like you'll see issues that happen in like Japan where they don't really take in any immigrants at all. And those that, come in, if they apply for aid, they just say, go back to wherever you came from. And so, and their population is precipitously declining. And that's a huge concern where there was an article I was reading just the other day where it was talking about how like a Japanese farmer had no one to give his land to, and so he just gave it up to anybody because he had no children, he had no bloodline left, more or less. And so it'll be weird to see. I think that'll be the interesting thing is, well, do nationalists or right-wing governments or more non-immigration countries, what's their solution to the demographics bomb? I mean, Hungary is kind of trying, and I think that they're kind of beginning to turn it around a little bit, or at least trying to stabilize it, which is a good thing. But it seems dead set in America and most of the Western European countries that unless you see complete regime collapse, that we're going to get the quote unquote replenishment.
Oh God, yeah, but that's. I hate to say it, but that is a logical outcome unless something major happens, especially in America. I think America can do it. Most other Western European countries, forget about it. They're done for. Maybe Russia will have a population reawakening, but that would take a lot. I think America certainly at this point maybe has the tools to do it, but I don't think that like memes about homesteading or eating raw liver are going to do it. I think. You see that girl, by the way?
Oh God, it was awful.
Roar! I mean, God bless her for trying, though. But we all know that has some. As default friend would say,
we're enabling this. I think we're enabling this in a lot of ways. I mean, it's pornographic. I think that it's just something that people want to have it. Like the whole Waffle House thing, like we just talked about earlier. Everyone wants a woman that they can say is like, that's my girl, that's my like mascot, that's which also I think is kind of a sad inversion of, and I think that there's something, this kind of gives credence to Bap's point about why does he do the men thing over the women, because it's just like, well, fit men that could rebel against the system are actually far more terrifying than some woman that swats a chair away at a Waffle House to the people that actually matter. But so many people, I think they just they want a waifu, right? Like they want an idol, which not my cup of tea, but I see why people do it. But I just think it's the world's oldest profession with trad kitsch aesthetics. That's what I tweeted out earlier, and I stick by it.
I remember there was the other day, I think he deleted it though. My good friend Fentanyl Blow Dart, who I think will be on the show soon. He had the tweet about a total.
I love names like that. That's my mutual. That's Fentanyl Blow Dart. That's my mutual.
Blow Dart, my mutual.
It's just it's great.
yeah. he had this tweet about like, given like however many people are in like the E-right on Twitter, maybe about 9 men total meet the requirements that Holistic Honey has for a man. So, like, I want to talk a little bit. Speaking like now that we're talking about populations, you saw the whole kerfuffle. Battle Beagle, Harmless Yard Dog posted that graph of like the requirements that most women have under the age of 30. I believe only like 8% of the male population meets them. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So the millennial the millennial woman mental health apocalypse. We've talked about it before in the show, but this decade we're gonna realize it as they move into their mid 30s. So have at it, dude. Have at it.
I don't know who tweeted it out in response to that, but I think it was iHypocrite or somebody. He had said that like the real interesting metric is going to be burnout older millennials preying on younger Gen Z men and women, and that we're going to see some like the age gap discourse come back in dating.
Right here, late bloomers, let's fucking go.
There's hope for you yet, older millennials, if you haven't shacked up with somebody. And I mean, that was the other thing too, is that this is something that sort of the Ryan Stone and Red Hawk crowd have been talking about, is this like, look, by 2030, almost half of all women in the United States are going to be single and working. And so act accordingly, because that shit ain't changing.
Oh, man. Oh, I also have a PayPal donation from Khalifa, but he's uses his real name. But when we get to the super chats, just remind me, Khalifa. But yeah, so I think that, you know what's funny? There was this like post-left person that I tweeted about, but then I deleted it because, you know, I don't want to like incur the ire of people for posting about my own displeasure with the state of modern women. But there was, she said, like, for every time a man talks about the preference of women lowering preferences, it reveals their own inadequacies. But I'm thinking, like, if it's true, like, demographically, only 8% of men are in the percentile of, like, what women believe that they want because of social media, because of dating apps, because of, like, nonsense of, like, you know, the femcel crisis among, like, millennial women is incredible. I feel like their argument is, like, well, it's the same, like, ironically enough, when these leftist women or these, you know, radfems or whatever talk about how men, it's terrible that men want women to lower their standards. It's the exact same discourse as like boomer normie cons that say man up and marry them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the solutions that are proposed on the individual level aren't going to cut it in terms of like, raise your standards, or for women, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the advice given to young men in the coming decades will become irrelevant. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like this year, the fact that we have gone out of the COVIDian era without logging off en masse, and the summer of love has been, you know, thwarted, right? That, you know, people aren't like, it's the same relations. People are still more terminally online than ever. The solutions given to young men by, like, I don't know, like Get Good or like whatever, like that's not going to cut it anymore.
No,
that's not realistic. First of all, economically won't be realistic.
Well, what makes it worse though, Gio, is that all aspects of what the dating and sort of like the intersexual relations are going to look like in the future, that's all the intersectional bubble is going to crash in and just, it already has, right? But it's only going to get worse. Like today on Unheard by Kat Rosenfield, is it racist?
Oh, our friend of the show, Kat Rosenfield. We've read her articles before. Frenemy of the show.
Frenemy of the show. There you go. But literally the tweet, I think that they may have changed it, but someone had screen capped it, was, are white women allowed to have big butts? And it's just like, well, this is the state of the discourse, ladies and gents. I got nothing else to add.
Donald Trump gaming.
Jeez Louise.
Oh, man. By the way, sneak those super chats. I'm not seeing them, but come on, guys, I turned 30 years old. Come on, guys. You gave Prude some love when he went on his birthday stream. You people, you know what? I'm going to start just randomly banning. No, I would never do that. I'd never. People, you know, people like, I'll be like Amazing Atheist that one time with Fake Sagan, where he's like, you give me $1, you're banned, you know? I would never do that to anybody. I would never do that to you. The loyal Geo cells. But anyways, no, but the demographic situation, but I think like, again, there's no, when you logically look at these like black pilling charts, like, okay, the reality is that yes, people will still get married, people still will find each other, but really realistically, I mean, it's sort of like, when you like look at the sort of the social conditions around you and the messages that are put out there, the past decades, I mean, millennial women in particular, I mean, look at how the messages they were told when they were younger, right? Like, there's no real easy solution to this. You know what I mean? Like, I just, when I see these things, I sort of pause and I think to myself, realistically, what would it take to awaken a sort of like a care, like, I mean this in the Heideggerian sense, a care of like, you are thrown into these conditions, therefore you have an immediate identification with them, that you must be concerned with them. That's what I mean by care.
Yeah.
What would it take for most people to, like, besides like terminally online weirdos, to like really care about the implications of it? Because I mean, I think the average millennial is just looking to like find, like, carve out a piece of like existence more or less, and like that's good enough. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I can't think of anything at the moment.
I think that you're also going to see that couples with this really nicely is just a crisis of meaning.
True, yeah.
I really think now more than ever. I mean, COVID had the sort of like the weird Catholic Twitter article and a lot of like the sort of niche religious revival on sort of the left and the right. But I think that you're going to have like, there's going to be a really deep existential crisis that will come not only for just older millennials, but I mean, there's been all these like weird, and it's like looking through, the looking glass of just like, oh, there are people that are posting about their lives, about being a quote unquote stay-at-home girlfriend or a stay-at-home wife.
Oh, I saw. Did you see the cold healing one?
Yeah.
Were two kids and there were like two corgis.
Yeah, it was two
Look
dogs.
at this. By the way, Prue, sorry to cut you off. Look at this in the chat. Look at it. People now, they're sending $1. Just to troll me, they're sending $1.
You have my welcome endorsement, everyone in chat. I'm a happy man.
Oh my god.
You have my endorsement.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Like, I'm not even mad. I'm not even mad. As soon as I brought up the amazing atheist where he bans people for $1.
GeoCells vindicated. Yes, Ace, you're absolutely right.
Oh,
they are.
Man. Oh, that's terrible. Dance for the money. Oh my god, that's incredible. Anyways, go ahead, Prude. Sorry.
Cody is our strongest soldier in terms of memes.
Yeah,
he is our best meme soldier, and I love him for it. Cody's a great guy. You should follow him at Cody Browning on Twitter. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The X-Files posts are amazing.
The pro-white X-Files are
Wignat X-Files. Yeah.
Oh man. There was this thought that came to my mind because I have bought over the course of 2022 a few books based off Charles Haywood's recommendations. And he recommended back in, I want to say April of this year, he reviewed Fitzpatrick's War, which is this like really old 2004 work of like speculative fiction where like this Yukon Empire of where it really just started about the Midwest and like the mid 21st century where things got really bad, and eventually the Chuds rose up and they had their own little J6 moment, but they won, right? And they kind of started trying to reclaim the world and their image, but they had regressed technologically. They had their own kind of Butlerian jihad, and they do things on like blimps and light aircraft and things like that. It's sort of this retro futurist style look at what happens if like, based world actually happened.
Yeah.
And, but, the thing that really struck me about the book was that, it has things that the right kind of knows really well, great man, religion, the issues of like middle and, coastal America and just where things are going in terms of technology. Like this book's really it lays out a case for what could happen kind of well, but I don't see technological regression outside of, well, I do see it in sort of the...
I see stagnation rather than regression.
Yeah, stagnation is what I think we'll see more of rather than absolute regression. Although it does worry me when, there are some pieces of technology that we may just not have the people for, to maintain the brain power. Like the IQ shredder will eventually run out of people to bring in and new talent, especially as the demographics bubble hits.
Yeah.
And so I get concerned because it's just like, well, what do you mean we don't have someone that can run an MRI machine? Or what do you mean we don't have someone that can repair it? I don't know if it's going to be like complete catabolic collapse, but we're going to see, even in sort of the quote unquote market oriented American health system, which Lord knows has its own problems. I think we too will see, Canadian or British style wait times because we may not have access to equipment. And I mean, that's the other thing that COVID and the war has also done, has created widespread shortages on virtually everything. European bakeries are having an egg shortage problem. And something I just saw earlier today on that issue. And I was just like, well, damn, like things are going to get really bad. And I don't know. I think it's important, however, despite all of the doom and gloom that we talk about, I think it's important that if you're on this side, you probably saw some of this coming. And if not, you were listening to people who definitely saw it coming. And then secondly, I think that we kind of, I don't know, we can't be completely, I don't know. I don't want to say doomer about it or anything like that, but I don't know. We can't give up, I guess. We can't be completely demoralized, because that's something that I have noticed in the last couple of years of 2020, of the 2020s, has been like abject demoralization cranked up to 11. And I mean, it's cool that Christopher Rufo and them get to do what they want, but I don't think you should follow libs of TikTok. I'm sorry. I don't think that's good for your health. I get it, right? Like, look at these crazy people and like watch them,
or Clown World.
Yeah, or Clown World or things like that. Or Telegram has some, like R, slur of TikTok, that's my favorite one, because sometimes it's just really stupid people, not objectively political. But I don't know. I think that sometimes I will see someone retweet a libs of TikTok tweet, and I'm thinking to myself, this kind of feels demoralizing if I got to see this day in and day out on my Twitter feed. I don't know. Maybe I'm sensitive to it or whatnot, but it's just like, I get it. They're disgusting. They're evil. They are all pederastic, disgusting creatures from hell. But like,
they're all transmogrified. Yeah,
they're all it's like the Geo map guy where they do all the memes about click and they guess the right ethnicities really accurately.
That guy.
But I don't know. I for one think that I think more now than ever, it will be really important to have the sort of martial spirit to discipline yourself, to not give into that kind of like, do you see? Look at how bad things are. We can't fetishize. It, I think. And I think a lot of people do.
Yeah. I think it's funny because there was this tweet that Basil had, who also might be in the show. He had this tweet about how, like, he posted a picture. It was like Kevin Sullivan and Rufo and who's that other the National Review? David French. And he's
he got a job at the New York Times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, he's no longer in the National Review?
No. Well,
he double dips.
Does French still write for the Review, or I thought he did that Dispatch thing or whatever?
Oh, maybe. But Kevin Sullivan is on his own in Substack, so
of course.
But basically, because Basil, he's a gay man himself, right? But he like knows the magic, right? He goes, basically these people, and oh no, sorry, it was a picture. It wasn't Rufo. It was Barry Weiss and Kevin Sullivan and David French, who is spiritually whatever. Even though I believe he is a leftist. Oh, I was gonna say, like, because Barry Weiss is a lesbian and Kevin Sullivan's gay. Never mind.
Oh, well, they got the whole queer spectrum then on display there.
Yeah. No, but the fact that David French was in the meme, never mind. He's got a wife, but I don't know. I don't want to say
he's probably a little bi.
Yeah, he's like Lindsey Graham. Well, no, actually, Lindsey Graham's pretty much gay, right? Like,
yeah, I
believe I've asked you this like for 3 shows. Is Lindsey Graham
I'm of the
gay?
firm opinion that Lindsey Graham is a deeply closeted homosexual that had
But he's like the
John
Southern
McCain.
closeted, like the gentlemanry, the gentry type of Southern gentleman.
He's kind of got that Gillette voice where he kind of lets you know that he's not that light in the loafers, but he really is, just in the way that he talks. That's why he's got to talk up a big game about the U.S. military, nothing more, nothing less. He's got that kind of
aristocratic, queer voice.
He's like the
and
guy
it really
that...
sucks because there are 2 people that I know that talk like that. It's Lindsey Graham and Christopher Sandbach, and Sandbach is the straightest man I've ever met. And it's just like, well, you get one or the other. You either get, gay Lindsey Graham neoconservative, or you get based Southern identitarian historian Christopher Sandbach.
Yeah.
One or the other, kids. There's no in between.
But it's funny because Graham, he's kind of like, like the guy that helps out at the church potlucks. And he's like he's like, why is he single and still living with his mother in his 40s and 50s in the smaller town in the Midwest or in the South of America? Like, even in Canada, we have those.
Confirmed bachelor.
I'm a confirmed, exactly. So, but anyways, the point. This is a very long digression. Basil said that essentially the job of these people is to refine the excesses of woke, so that the Cthulhu can still move leftwards, because the battles that are being fought now, they will be mediated by the moderation of people like Barry Weiss and Kevin Sullivan and David French. And then later on, when there's the other culture war battle a year or 2 down the pipeline, that older issue will have been null and void, because then the sort of the fake right, the Barry Weiss containment centrists, they can like wash their hands and be like, you know what, we're cool. The Eric Weinsteins of the world, they can say that, you know what, we won that battle. We made fun of the woke, and there you go. But then the woke of yesteryear, they will move the discourse forward. So that is the job of the dork web. That is the job of those people. And I believe this year and during COVID, those people took a massive hit of legitimacy. I mean, Jordan Peterson especially. But I feel like that type of after Gamergate, these people were ascendant. The dark web. You know that picture with Joe Rogan at the dinner?
Yeah,
like Sam Harris,
or back when Barry Weiss worked at the New York Times, the big profile banner of like the 6 of them.
Yeah,
But what are they though? What are they? They are maybe not Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan's a different kind of character. Although he fits in with this. What were they? What are all these people? They were yesterday's new atheists.
Yes,
every single one of them were yesterday's Richard Dawkins followers, Christopher Hitchens lovers. They were all new atheists. What is James Lindsay? James Lindsay, at the end of the day, no matter how much he wants to call it neo-Marxism, neo-race,
what's the new one now? Postmodern Gnosticism.
Yeah, postmodern Gnosticism, whatever he wants to call them. At the end of the day, he's a really disaffected white new atheist that got really upset that yesterday's woke, that wasn't him. Because what was yesterday's woke? It's the same thing that Kimberly Crenshaw and all the others 40 years ago were talking about. It's always going to be focused about race. It's not about, enlightening yourselves with your own knowledge, because that Twitter comment's like 10 years old.
Yeah, it's 10 years old, but yesterday it was the 10th year anniversary of A.L. Lewis's Enlightened by My Own Intelligence.
Enlightened by My Own Intelligence comment. And I mean, that threw out the window. Why? Because all states are, all political formulas are innately theological ones. And so what do these new atheists get really upset by? Well, they got upset because it went to the one wedge issue that no matter what you argued, no matter what you talked about, it was immutable. And that, of course, would be like racial differences. And so they have nowhere to go. They hate the right wing, but they also hate what used to be their compatriots 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. And I really do think that they're going to continuously take a hit. No, I don't think they will take a hit. Because what is James Lindsay really good at? I mean, kind of like a quasi-containment, but also at the same time, like really good at breaking down that sort of like, well, we really need an open, they're the liberals of yesteryear. We really need this open marketplace of ideas. We shouldn't silence liberal professors.
Yeah.
Him and Peter Bosnian and all the others. It's just like, well, this is, I would like to see that trend die in 2023, but I think they're only going to get a larger and larger audience unless something.
Really?
I think so. I think that they're sort of, these are going to be the guys. I think James Lindsay and co. I think will be the ones to succeed Peterson, because he's got his Daily Wire gig. But I mean,
Peterson's on the decline.
He's on the decline, at least in regards to his mental health. I think that we'll see. I think we'll see something, because I mean they learned their lesson from like the teen years in the 2010s. They know when to cut mics and have security escort people out that want to gripe them or whatever. Like,
or leave Twitter Spaces.
Or Twitter Spaces. Yeah, as we recently discovered a few earlier this week. So I just think that.
And have a pity party online when people criticize you for your midwit to your book list.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think that these guys kind of serve as effective containment in a lot of ways. The Lex Friedmans and the Peter Bosnians, the Barry Weisses, the Dispatch, the James Lindsays of the world. I don't think
Local distance. Yeah.
They're not going to go local distance is a joke, but I mean, these guys aren't going to go away anytime soon. And I think that it's going to take I think it will take a substantial A, paradigm shift, or B, some kind of like life-altering politics event akin to Trump that has to put them in the ground. Not in any sort of violent way. I'm just saying ideologically,
discourse in terms of the discourse.
Discursively, something will have to put them in the grave. And until then, they're going to be here for a hot minute, I think.
Yeah. I feel like the Twitter files really revamped them, in my opinion. Musk gave them a W.
Yeah,
because of the
he
journalists
all a bone. Matt Taibbi, Barry Weiss, all of them.
Yeah, Li Fang, who is not that ilk. Like, I feel like the professional journalists, rather than like people that just pretend that they are, like the Weinsteins or Joe Rogan, like those people were thrown a massive bone. Matt Taibbi, Barry Weiss, Li Fang. Who else was given a Twitter file?
I don't know. They've done so many now. I don't care.
Yeah. I think. Well,
it's nice to have receipts for stuff I already knew, but
yeah. Well, I know Ian Chungus has his paws all over it too, so that's another thing. But
the outsourced Republican talking points generator.
No, well, I meant Imaz Chong, not Jack Posobiec. Same difference.
Outsourced, Republic. I mean, he's the quintessential Republican. He's outsourced labor. I mean,
yeah.
Exactly. At least Jack Posobiec's a spook that glows that will, do anything to instill that Poland starts the next world war. But
yeah, maybe if the Kremlin could call him and say, "Listen, Jack, I know you don't like us, but if we could give Poland Lviv, will you start Z posting on the timeline?" And Jack Posobiec would be like, "Yes, I will. Thank you, Putin. I know you're going to deliver us Lviv. That's all I want, even though I live in America and my wife, that's all I want. Okay. If you guys can work all the way up from Chernihiv and deliver us Lviv, then I'll be happy." Then Jack Posobiec will literally start Z posting. He'll start talking about desatanization. That's terrible.
He just glows. That's all.
Yeah, but no. Anyways, so they were thrown a bone, but I think that in the coming decades there will start to be more. I think the E-right will start to solidify. Certainly, left-wing forces. Here's one thing I will predict: one white pill.
Okay.
I think certain E-influencers, in terms of like the leftoids, one of them, the queen of Twitch, if you know what I'm talking about, they're going to take massive L's, I think, soon. I think that because of behind the scenes, I think that there's a powder keg of information there. That's why. Oh, another thing that happened in 2020, the Kiwi Farms thing.
Oh, yeah.
I think the reason that these people at the helm of, and it was an inside job with people like Ben Collins, let's face it, professional journalists were behind the scenes orchestrating that campaign with this person whom I'm not going to name because, but you know who I'm talking about. In the comments, I could probably we have
a pretty smart audience. Let's give them credit.
I think that the reason they freaked out on the Kiwi Farms thing is because there's a lot of skeletons in the closet of BreadTube and the Twitch people. And I think in the coming few years, there will be leaks and they won't be able to contain it. I think that's why they freaked out at Haya. Apparently that's her first name, Haya, not Shia. I've been saying it all wrong. The lives of TikTok. I think that there will be people that these people are inherently unstable, and the leftist influencers, I think that they're going to piss off people within their own camp. It's already happening. and there will be massive info dumps on bread tubers, Twitch streamers, influence, even the stuff that they've admitted in public, like the fact that Hassan Piker admits that he frequents a prosties in a brothel in Turkey that was pegged for
Human
trafficking.
Yeah.
Of let's call them little people, not to say the name on YouTube.
The little ones.
The little ones, yeah.
He deserves a millstone around his neck, but I mean, as Christ would say.
In Minecraft.
But,
but the point being is that I think even just publicly the stuff that they've admitted to, I think that there will be, in either this year or next year, the year after that, there's going to start being a sort of infighting, backstabbing effect with the bread tubers, with the Twitch streamers that we saw with the anti-SJWs. Because literally the only guy that survived that is our man, Carl Benjamin. He's the only guy that survived the chaos. Now that, but anyways.
I think that's another thing that we can talk about that. I guess, I don't know, since it's a new year, I feel like I know we're talking about just 2022, but I feel like the last 2 years, really.
Yeah.
What died in 2022, really has been dead, at least probably longer, but what's been dead? It's been nothing but BreadTube's dead.
Yeah,
I mean, I think they're kept alive by the people that interact with them, and I mean,
their glow-in-the-dark money,
their little niche audience, and glow-in-the-dark money, where Hillary Clinton starts a podcast tour, and one of her guests is ContraPoints. Oh boy,
whoa,
or
you saw the Martin tweet, right? With Vaush, where you quote tweeted. Of course, Martin deletes all his tweets.
Yeah,
but I screen capped it. Where he said to Vaush, you have how many, 500,000 followers, and you can't get barely 20 likes. He goes, literally without bots, these people are nothing. We own the discourse.
Yeah.
On the Heaven site, now that Elon's turned off a huge number of the bots, they're panicking right now.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree.
But what were you saying about in the future? Content in the future? Yeah.
It's dead for right now. I mean, that was the cool thing about 2022 is, BreadTube, for me, in terms of, I don't see it as the power that it had and the force that it had is gone. I do think the default's friend prediction, though, about what that might mean for the right is kind of, I think, will come true in a lot of ways, that the right-wing influencer circle discourse thing. I think that, we're kind of slowly having our own parallel to that, or we always have, right? We have, the meme about how, this is all garbage, right? And it's Jack saying, Demon Mama, Vaush, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
We've kind of got all that here too.
Jack Saint.
On the right, you've got BAP, Rag, Nationalist, Geo, AA, Morgoth, Millennial Woes.
I love you put me above Geo. Put me above AA.
I just put you all down the list. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But all right wingers, new right or whatever, right? I feel like that we're gonna see that happen, and where the fight is really gonna come down, I think, for right wingers in the future is gonna be against really shitty post-liberal media bits, Rog Nationalist just did a pretty much live tweet response thread to Sorhab Armani's article from Compact.
The lifestyle right. I was as soon as you mentioned that, I was thinking about the Sorhab Armani, the lifestyle right. BAP is going crazy.
That force is not going to go away for whatever reason. No. This sock dem with a splash of Catholicism,
based integralism, yeah.
This is for Mule, it gets memed at all the time by BAP and such, but the real issue is going to be, well, what do you do with a bunch of sock dem style critical theorists that think that no, there really is room for us to carve this new pathway forward, and where we can take actual legitimate rightist complaints and then
transmogrify
them and appropriate them for our own ends, which is why that's my problem. I think that'll be the big fight going forward. And I think that, the overlap between media, face lord figures in journalism and their discussions with Anons, that's not going to disappear.
No.
On the birthday stream, we had Grayson Quay on. And I don't agree with him on a lot of issues, but he talks to us. That's kind of interesting, I think, in some regards. Not to say that, Whether
He's
your
pretty
opinions are-
independent, though. I mean, he's
Yeah,
of that
he's
class,
pretty-
but he's not like
He's
of,
pretty
like-
independent. He's got an editorial
Yeah.
position. I mean, that's good on him. In the same way that others will talk to us. And I would like other people besides, say, Claremont and a few independent journalists to say that, but they're going to keep coming back. Because in a way, yes, we kind of have discourse, but at the same time, we also don't have a lot of power either. We are kind of pigeonholed
Yeah.
in a lot of ways into a very specific commentariat class. And I think that's a
Yes.
problem going forward, because what does everyone talk about? Well, you shouldn't just be on the internet. You really got to, there needs to be more than action. Don't use this as a digital escapism, friendship simulator, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, we are kind of pigeonholed into that. And the primary problem that I think that the E-right will have to deal with in 2023 is its own patronage networks. Because
Yes.
myself, everybody in sort of these spheres, what's our patron network? It's been traditionally
It's
speaking,
you guys.
it's you
Yeah.
guys that we're all fighting after. We're all fighting after
Yeah.
for a little bit of your money. We're all fighting for you to mail us that typewriter. We all want that. We all do. But we're all fighting over the same small piece of the pie. It's a very small piece, and it keeps
This
getting
is what
smaller.
Distributus said. Yeah.
And he's right. And this is going to be the
Yeah.
challenge in 2023 is how do we overcome the fact that our patronage network is the constantly harangued and hated and drying up and withering middle class? Because if not, like, we're just as much victims of the Juvenalian's process as anyone else.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we have to learn how to expand our patronage networks in that regard. And I think that it helps to actually produce real physical content. Like, Man's World is great. The latest, I Am 1776 is great. Having zines and books and things like that is good, because I can say, oh, there's a service. Oh, Semyagog wrote a book. Oh, like Gio's writing a book. Oh, well, we have a network where we're going to.
Oh, you
host
could buy
events.
my paintings. I'll have my website up. I just have to stock it.
Yeah,
You can buy
like
my
Gio has
prints.
paintings. Matthew the Stoat has paintings, and they have sales
Yeah.
and things like that. That stuff helps, because
Yeah.
that can help attract a different class of patronage. But that's going to be, I think, the big challenge for the E-right in 2023 is, well, how do we get people that aren't regular middle class chuds like us to give us cash?
Exactly.
And that also comes with the
hate to
caveat of,
say it.
well, do I want to be owned?
Yeah, I hate to say, I know people are going to hate this, but they know my position. The one who's really perfected this is Default, because her audience is not traditional right-wing people. It's like
I wouldn't call her
boomers.
right wing either.
No, exactly. It's Gen Xers with kids. It's like Zoomers and like basically Silicon Valley people. Like,
Yeah.
there will be, I think, like, my fear is that there will be a few cropped voices in the E-right that the sort of Theo Horowitz and Dryas network will take from, and the more radical people will be left in the dust. Apart from, like, now that especially cryptocurrency is going downhill, people in like the very, like, the ghettos of the far right, they're another thing too, without verbalizing it too much, would be the big wars in the E-right this coming year. By the summer, I feel, are going to have to dissipate to move forward. The tension at the top is not good. It's I feel like going further into the 2020s, there's going to have to be a moment where we all say that, well, listen, we're all kind of in this together, more or less, because our enemies consider us basically the same.
Yeah.
And us, like, having these constant beefs and wars with each other, fighting over the same resources pools, fighting over the same resource pools, it's not going to work. There's one massive fight that the two people I'm talking about. That issue has to be resolved this year. Whether or not, and I can't predict the future, because and here's the thing. I'll tell you the little secret, having witnessed a few e-wars myself. The people that go to war with each other on the internet, they will still have their audiences. Maybe they'll have less of an audience at the end of them, but more or less nothing will change. Even if there's a huge blow-up confrontation, look at all the people after blood sports, apart from the few that left.
Yeah.
A lot of them manage to just, they'll do their own thing. They'll go into obscurity a little bit, or they'll go out on top, or they'll survive like Sargon because he changed himself. But more or less, when these big kerfuffles happen, it isn't as seismic or ground-changing as people think. Apart from people that just totally leave because they were totally embarrassed and humiliated, which that has happened, or they convert to the other side, like they become bread tubers. I don't see like, I think things dissipate more than they blow up. They fade out more than burn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like the energy between the one big E war that I'm referring to, I don't see the energy being there by the summer of this year. I mean, I hope not, but like I feel like even if there is like a big blow up confrontation that will basically pit, man against man, that will divide people. I don't really see that type of politics going forward. I feel like there's going to have to be a moment where you say, listen, the autistic slap fights that happen, they're not doing us anything. That's maybe a charitable assumption. Or realistically, more of the same will happen. There will be a new crop of people that will continue on their war against each other, and nothing will change. That's the black pill. Nothing will change is the real black pill. Not things going downhill or things changing for the better. The real black pill is stagnation in the internet age, is entropy. That is what the real black pill is. Whether it's the neoliberal order or it's the inability of the E-right to do anything realistically, or like, the stagnation in the internet age, that is the real negative outcome. Not things dramatically going downhill, because even a downturn of things will present people dramatic opportunities. If you get what I mean. Like, I just don't mean internet politics. I mean, on the grand chessboard of things, downfalls will produce outcomes that are surprising. But stagnation, that is the real black pill. That is the real negative situation. Not collapse or not improvement. Stagnation. The order of things remaining as they are. That is the real problem. But sorry, I'm just
No, you're good.
myself,
You're good.
yeah.
No, I think that one of the big problems though is, and I don't know who broke this down, but I'm going to sort of regurgitate it because I think it was very keenly accurate. I saw it earlier this week was that, well, a lot of leftoids kind of know their place. They know who to follow, who to listen to, what orders to go through. They know where they sit on the intersectional hierarchy, which is going to
Ace
dominate.
has a good question here, by the way.
Who?
Where does Big Spence fit into this?
I don't know. I think he'll continue to enjoy his double cup of lean and try and reintegrate himself into some other kind of camp. But I don't think he's out for the count yet. I think he will try and reinvent or bring himself back in some form or fashion. I don't think he's done. I'd keep an eye on him. But who knows what he'll do. But I think that the point that was made, and I really wish I could remember where I saw it from, but like the leftoids know where they sit on their intersectional hierarchy. They know who to follow. They know what to do. They know what orders are, right?
Every prophet in their house. Yeah.
Right.
In their house.
Whereas on the right, a lot of people do want to be the guys that say, follow me. And, we're in a competitive, and again, it's also, we're all making money off of this. So it's all going to be market driven. We're all going to want to compete. We want to up our production quality. We want to write better essays. We want to write better bangers. We want to do X, Y, and Z. And we can't stop, because if you stop, it's death. Yeah. And so, well, what does that encourage? It does encourage fighting, and it does encourage slap fights. It does encourage, long posts on Telegram, Twitter threads, back and forth, hating on one another.
Oh God, the Telegram posts,
and they're all there.
Yeah,
and we're all.
I've done a few of them. I denounced part of the post left, but
a lot of that, I see it continuing, unless I think it'll stop a little bit come recession. Because once it's like, oh, this isn't making me money, that might change it. But I think that by nature of the fact, and this is why I think in 2023 you have to solve the patron question. Because if you can solve the patronage question, maybe people can evolve from fighting. Because the difference is, it's different from, say, oh God, that was last year or the year before. When was the whole tomboy abs thing, AA and such?
Yeah, last year.
2021 or 2022?
Late 2021.
Late 2021. Okay. Just trying to remember. But like, what was smart about that attack is that you weren't going after righties. You were going after quote unquote centrists and liberals and lefties. You were going after Adam and Sitch, and you got a few people to join you. Your subscriber count went up. Your channel memberships went up, and things like that. That I think is going to be kind of acceptable. Start poaching the center, start poaching the normies, start poaching the consumer type for people who might want something more than just, oh, here's a 7-hour nuanced discussion on something where I'm not really going to get anything out of it. That's smart. I don't think And I guess this kind of goes back to the sort of the two bigger things that I noticed on the discourse near the end of 2022 in December was Charles Haywood and Rod Dreher going at it.
Oh yeah.
Dreher's been in the discourse longer than I'd like to admit, because he also was partially responsible for doxing somebody and getting them fired from their job. That unfortunately is still a reality that we have to live with, and that you can't fully trust these establishment types in any way, shape,
with
or
friends
form.
like Rod Dreher. Do we really
Yeah, with
need
friends like
Antifa?
Dreher, who needs enemies? You know,
Who needs Antifa? Yeah, exactly.
Who needs Antifa when Rod Dreher can get you fired from your job for believing in basic things that are on the right
that people believed maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And
or even like normie people still believe, but they really don't want to admit it, because if you admit it, then
if you admit it, it's over. You know, it's like Peter walking on water. The moment you look down and see what you're doing, it's over. You know, your faith crumbles.
Well, even if you look at marriage demographics in North America and Europe, I mean, it's largely still like mixed race or mixed religion, and mixed cultural marriages are still the minority, if I recall.
Yeah, they still are.
Yeah.
I mean, even dating apps have their own data from OkCupid to Tinder that will tell you people still prefer inside their own race, people still prefer inside their own traditions or religions, and make very few exceptions.
Yeah.
And you know, that is still the norm, despite as much social engineering as that. And that's the other thing. 2022 was the year of Lizzo for
oh god, yeah.
And I mean, even Steve Saylor tweeted that out yesterday. Like, listen, there's been a huge push to promote obesity, and that the new standard of beauty is fat Black women. And it's just like, yeah, like we see it all the time between that god awful Gatorade commercial, or Lizzo, you know, desecrating fucking James Madison's crystal flute or whatever. Like it's been a year of demoralization. It has been a year of unprecedented levels of psyoping, and I don't see that stuff stopping either.
Do you? I wanted to ask you this because Josh Neal and Jefferson Lee covered this.
Okay.
It was a tweet. The guy follows me actually. On content on my solo variety mega show on Patreon, I sort of had an unsympathetic take to him, but he did this tweet thread. His name was something revival. He's got a picture of he's got a picture of a black version of Robespierre. You know? But he had a tweet thread about how 2022 was the year that like the sort of online schizos like really took L upon L in terms of their predictive powers. And so he was saying that the E-right in particular and like the schizo right wing, that they predicted, their predictions fell flat, in that, you know, Bolsonaro, I don't know if I could say anything about that election on YouTube, but just tear on the side of caution. Bolsonaro lost fully and fairly and no funny business. So Bolsonaro,
and now is in Florida roaming a Publix.
Yeah. And so Bolsonaro took an L. Trump 2022 took I would think a massive L in terms of his power to garner support for 24. You know, of course he added that, like, you know, Russia did not sweep the whole of Ukraine in like a month. What else?
Well, I mean, isn't just Black Robespierre like Toussaint Louverture or whatever, the black guy that pretty much led complete, you know, destruction?
The Haitian thing. Yeah.
Anyway,
Haitian thing.
Yes, that was.
No, but anyways, if you go to the video that they did on Tyler Hamilton, Thamestar's channel, I forget the exact handle, but I know the guy follows me, and he's a good poster. I mean, it's a bit of a black pill, but I wanted to ask you this in particular. Do you think the predictive power of not just us, but also like the online schizophrenics in general have sort of lost their meme magic and muster? That 2022 was the year where everything we predicted, from the red wave to Bolsonaro to Trump to the war in Ukraine, that all of that stuff is sort of like out of our hands, and that the regime has, like, you know, the Turbo America regime, that, you know, they actually took the major W's, and we're all fucked. And like Nicolas Salado said that, like, in 2023 we're just gonna get more of the same. What did he say in January? He said the beginning, he said, you remember the tweet. You remember?
Yeah. We'll be taking more L's, and that this Turbo America stuff's going to go the way that it does.
Yeah. But what do you think? Do you think 2022 is the year that meme magic died? Or, I don't know.
Funny how we started this podcast, the very first episode, on meme magic. But,
yeah.
I mean, I guess it's different between, like, there's a clear and delineated difference between schizo posting and people who notice things.
Yeah.
For instance, Battle Beagle, harmless yard dog, notices things and will take a look at large macroeconomic trends and will tell you quite clearly this is probably what's going to happen.
Yes.
And I mean that just takes an autistic amount of research, and I don't know what he does for a living. Some say he closed, some say he doesn't, some say he works in logistics. I don't know, but the guy's been pretty dead on, and he's one of those kind of guys that will literally just look at the data and offer you probably the most statistically likely prediction. That tends to be what's been happening. I mean, I kind of got it wrong. I didn't think that Russia would invade at the beginning. I played out two scenarios.
Me too. Yeah, I said
if Russia doesn't invade, it will have to maintain a show of force, with its mobilization to sort of keep...
if they started invading and bombing the Donbass, then they would.
Well, yeah, but I had two takes at the beginning of the year on that. I said, if they don't invade, we're going to see a continued ramp up of arms and aid to the Ukrainians, and that Russia will really have to tell the Americans and the rest of the world to not get involved by having its military on its borders at all times, or they invade. And what's going to happen is that you're going to see a rather long and drawn out slugfest akin to Syria. And it's going to be a meat grinder. And what do all meat grinders be, that we're not directly involved in? They're going to be a really cool place for the world to test out new toys. And that's exactly what we've watched play out. And that is the unfortunate... Well,
that's what Ben Braddock said. But,
and I mean, there are some people that got it right, I think, but I don't know because I feel like the red wave stuff felt like, because on one hand, we all saw what happened in 2020, and it's just once that cat's out of the bag, you're never going to have a trustworthy set of results happen ever again. I mean,
nope.
Plus, we saw the regime really come out to play, and by that I really mean McConnell. And
without saying too much for YouTube, but you know what we're alluding to.
The
fact that elections,
the great fortification, and so I just think that I don't know if we're out for the count. I mean, were we really big? Yes,
I think 2022 was such a demoralizing year for everyone that the meme magic was sort of in a fuzz. Yeah.
But that's the thing though, is because I know people who got stuff right. And I know that's sort of flying in the face of, just because you know people, that doesn't mean that the aggregate trend is incorrect. But
I think what the revival meant was the greater wisdom of the schizo poster, the E-Right, the meme magic Kekistani people.
Oh, well then, I'm inclined to give that far more sympathy than people that pay attention to logistics.
But again, I think he was reverberating Scott Greer as well, because Scott Greer has been just all this year has been hammering that predictive power of meme magic to say, actually, no, guys, realistically, the regime will find a way to defeat any sort of wish fulfillment that you might have.
That I agree with. I mean, even I Am 1776 bit that one pretty hard with their making of a senator Ben Braddock interviews Blake Masters bit. And there was a lot of people popping happy little blue pills to really get hard on for Blake Masters, and we're gonna have this new based Caesarian senator that's gonna walk into the halls and become a U.S. senator and get sworn in, but that didn't happen. And instead we it's not just candidate quality does matter, but I mean, in regards to why are we running literal morons like Dr. Oz and Herschel Walker, which Herschel Walker's even more depressing because your white wife thought it would be smart to double down on trying to get the black vote in Georgia as a black Republican and not the 210,000 white people in Marjorie Taylor Greene district who didn't vote for you but voted for Kemp. Just racism still exists. Just saying. I mean, wish fulfillment is difficult because you can't just meme less deplorables and call it a W anymore. I mean, I don't think it holds the same power that it did before. The way that it holds power is in the way that Christopher Rufo holds it in power, because he's playing, and for all the criticisms that you can levy against Christopher Rufo, he has done far more than any shit posting campaign on Twitter, 4chan, Armada forums, or anywhere else you hang out has done. And that's going to be, I think, the other key question of 2023.
As embarrassing as it is to admit. Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge L on our part. I mean, but at the same time, it reemphasizes something. What do you and I do right now with this podcast? We are the commentariat class.
Yes.
Would we like to break out of that? I do. I mean, it's partially why we have the Old Glory Club started in 2022, is for the purposes of the money that we raise and the focus on American culture that isn't, the usual normie take on history, is because one day we would like to use that capital to host events and also, most importantly, to bring back mutual aid societies in America, because that used to be tradition. And when someone like our friend that was unfortunately, led under the firing and doxing by Dreyer and co., in the future, we can support those guys, or at least give them more assistance, because the big problems that really do exist for the E-right is, well, if we're going to be commentariat, we have to be more effective at it. And I think that the M1776 thing, or however you want to pronounce it, that's kind of a good measure of it, because they're, for as much flack as they get by some people, that's a much better product than, say, townhall.com or whatever, the Daily Wire's putting out. It's closer to quote unquote our guys, because it's literally published and has articles written by our guys, or in myself. Have you put one out there for them?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I've been in there, but I've been lagging on writing for them. But I had a big one.
I'm gonna do one of their movie review ones. It's gonna be put out there. But I mean,
if Mark does another like issue 3 on something, because issue 2 is about Florida, I'm like, what am I gonna write about Florida? If issue 3 is,
I hope he puts my essay in there for issue 3, because I made it in the top 10 articles of 2022. So
I'll ask him. But no, I feel like with Blake Masters, that was a case of he didn't win because the Republican Party didn't want him to win.
They pulled out millions of dollars to go.
Yeah.
They put out millions of dollars to go
because he's got everything. He's got the image. He's got the family. He's got capital behind it. He's got the messaging. He's got the person. Like you could like cultivate a younger guy like Blake Masters. I said this on stream before. You could cultivate him, mold him, get him a Senate win, and then maybe one day he could be the president. If the Republican Party thoroughly feels that they're threatened enough to cultivate a younger and more radical crop of politicians.
But the Republican Party doesn't like the idea that politicians actually want to do something.
Exactly.
That's the biggest. That's the biggest L that sort of the quote unquote right in general took in 2022. Was that it really showed how little you can really get done if you do not have institutional control.
Exactly.
Because, again, the state of exception is those who can manipulate procedural results to get the outcomes that they want. So, like earlier this year, what did we see in 2022? We saw the great Martha's Vineyard debacle play out.
Oh,
what did
God,
the government do? The government used the Trafficking Victims Protection Act because some Democrats in Bexar County, Texas, said those people are trafficking victims of a crime. And because of that, they get visas to stay in the country.
I didn't know that about the Democrat, the activist judges in Texas.
Yeah.
Oh my
Democratic
God.
DA did it, and then the feds were like, oh, that's a TVPA issue. These people get visas. Which also goes to show that our Trafficking Victims Protection Act laws from 2008 are they need to be revised.
Yeah, trafficking in the southern border is a very complicated issue with human smuggling and sex trafficking and the people that are dumped there. Like, I saw the Tucker report. You're not near there, but like in El Paso, you used to live in El Paso. You saw that report from Tucker about the people in the airports, like literally just living in the bus terminals and airports till they get shipped off God knows where by the DA,
Yeah. So
in Canada, I noticed recently there is some blackpilling over Pierre Palavra. Like, I think it's not good. It's not good. I mean, obviously the establishment people in the Conservative Party are basically pulling the same moves as the Republicans. Like O'Toole saying, like, we have to calm down. Like, it's like, just get out of here. You know what I mean? Oh, we can't have the fuck Trudeau flags anymore. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, come on. I feel like there is some instability. I feel like Palavra has to really hammer down his messaging before 2025 if he wants to really if he's serious about toppling Trudeau Jr., then there's gonna have to be some serious things that serious moves. He's going to have to really get on point. He has been good with messaging so far. He mentioned the opioid crisis when someone asked him about like the rhetoric against like, oh, why are people so mean? The conservatives, don't you care about people being rude? Like, he's like, no, people are dying of overdoses. People are having their income stripped from them. People are having their housing robbed from them. You know, he gave a perfect answer. But no, but in America, yeah, the GOP, I feel this year and this decade has to change. There's no question about it. If you want people in America who are of our persuasion to survive, there's no choice. There's no people like Mitch McConnell have to go. That's like they have to step down. I don't know. They're all old, right? So
the day of the pillow for them will come eventually, just by natural biology. But I mean, I think we talked about this a few episodes ago. Just the sheer age. Like I think both Chuck Grassley and Senator Dianne Feinstein, they're both 89, turning 90 this year.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Who's gonna go first, Soros or Kissinger?
That's the pool I'm on, baby.
Yeah.
But I don't know who I said that to. I think it was Matthew the Stoat. I was just like, that's what my money's on. Who croaks first? The man that has created the post-war international rules-based order, or the man that wants to make sure that there can never be a homogenous European country again?
Yeah, exactly. Which demon's gonna get slayed by Father Time first? You know, my money's on Soros. I think Kissinger still has a little bit of life in him, but
they can't let Kissinger die. He still is on the he's still on the president's committee for foreign affairs in terms of advisors he can call up. I mean, Kissinger in a lot of ways is like Metternich. He just refuses to die until like his baby is finally destroyed.
Yeah. I feel like they're gonna need him. Say if the Russians, they have a huge mobilization and they pull all the way to Chernihiv, I feel like they're gonna probably send Kissinger in there to talk to Putin. That'll be like because you know what's funny? Like I know that the Kissinger, listen, he's evil, he's terrible, he caused untold human misery throughout the world, but he has been sort of moderated a little bit in terms of the excesses of the American empire in recent years. Did you notice that? Like his articles? I mean, maybe they're ghostwritten. Maybe he's up on stilts. Who knows?
Who knows? But I mean,
weekend at Henry's, you know. But
weekend at Henry's. I mean, he's been a little more conciliatory towards the rising powers, both Russia and China, which I found to be rather interesting.
His China writing, I feel, has been quite interesting.
Yeah, he's changed a lot since he put out World Order a few years back, almost a decade ago, actually. So, I mean, his positions have definitely evolved. But, I mean, you have to understand, he is probably, for all the Machiavellian evil that you can ascribe to Henry Kissinger, he is an expert on two things. One, he is probably one of the most cunning Machiavellian type balance of power style politicians. And two, he's the most foremost expert of the 20th century on Clemens von Metternich. And I mean, because that's the guy that kind of created the Congress system, who created the balance of power sort of idea for the European states. And what has his project been trying to do as long as he's been alive? Trying to maximize that as a way to maintain a balance of power on a global. He's trying to put it to scale. And so I'm not surprised that his rhetoric's changing, because there are other powers and other pushes to have things counteract what the American system is doing. My question becomes, and this is sort of the interesting thing that I didn't get to bring up with when I was with AA talking about Turbo America, is that, well, yeah, things are kind of going well for them based on the case that Soldo is presenting, but you have the USS Bonham Richard fire. You've got, JP5 and some aircraft carriers' water supply that they have to have filters for. Where the hell are we going in terms of military readiness and competency? Because we are not the same United States military of 2003.
But that's what I mean. That's why the predictive power of like people, for example, unveiling like China, unveiling like this meme jet fighter that they have, that people are saying, well, this is going to spur America to basically freak out and like fortify their military industrial complex with new technology. We had this debate.
We still do that though. I mean, we still do.
Yeah. No, we were having this back and forth in our DM group with World's Greatest Dad about this.
Yeah.
And he knows more because of his connections, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, I think the problem is at the core of the American military-industrial complex, the war in Ukraine is really exposing that the gearing up for the war on terror that happened for 20 years, that's fundamentally different than the Cold War, than Vietnam, because Vietnam, they still had endless resources that they could throw into it. Not that it made a difference in the end, but it could have. Maybe it could have, potentially. I mean, ask Thomas77 about this. He has a few interesting takes on Vietnam. But in terms of the core, I mean, the actual industrial capacity of armaments that America can produce, it's not 1960 anymore. It's not even 1980. They can produce more tech, and they could potentially hard test it in Ukraine, because I do feel the war will still be going on by this time, maybe by the summer at least, but maybe longer. I mean, by this time next year, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, again, we don't know what the world order is going to look like in 100 years. I mean,
yeah.
The one part where I hope Battle Beagle is wrong is that, he had laid out the prediction of expect a low yield nuclear weapon to go off in 2023. I'm very much this is the one part where maybe I'm coping, but I'm on team not happening for that one, because you don't have one go off. It's never one, because once that thing is out of the bag, it is almost, I don't see it happening to reel it back in. Although it was funny, because my parents they watched that Jack Ryan obvious, predictive programming garbage with the guy from The Office. And the third season just came out or whatever, and the guy
that Bap allegedly knows.
Yeah, right. And the third season just came out.
Out of all the camp on schizophrenia, that was like the funniest one, that he went to school with Jack from The Office.
Yeah, that he knows what's his name, Krasinski or whatever.
Yeah.
That's funny. But no, what's the whole plot line of the third season is that some rogue elements in the Russian government want Russia and America to go to war, and a low yield nuclear weapon goes off in the Czech Republic.
That's such a stale plot line. That's like an 80s action movie.
Well, it's Tom
True
Clancy's
Lies, right?
Jack Ryan. It's peak Cold War shit. But at the same time, I'm just thinking to myself, the context of this war. But again, that's where the schizo posting gets you. But it's just like, kind of funny in the context of current war. But that's just me,
Yeah. No, but another thing too, I predict would be maybe not the summer of this year, but maybe probably early 2024, if there is massive crippling food shortages and grain shortages from, Ukraine and Russia. If for example, the Russians take back Kherson City, and if they go up to Nikolaev, up to Odessa, and there is huge grain shipment shortages, they're gear up for probably small scale regional warfare happening in Africa. A lot of those countries will look to China. A lot of them will be armed by China. Well, I don't know. I mean, now that Victor Boot's out of the can,
go back. They'll have Turkish drones that'll happen there as well.
The dollar store Turkish drones. But here's the difference, though. Here's the difference, and this is what me and Goran were talking about a little bit. The Turkish drones in Ukraine are not that effective because the Russians have just found ways to shoot them down. But in Africa, they will be effective. They don't have nearly as much capacity for surface-to-air missiles on the cheap the way that Russia does. But of course, I mean, you can't compare, because both of them have been, in the east of Ukraine, have been militarized on both sides, obviously, for 8 years now. In Africa, those drones will be effective. The Turks, we know that Erdogan has an investment in the company. What do they call him, that guy? They call him the Turkish Elon Musk, the guy that makes the dollar store drones.
I don't know his name off the top of my head.
Yeah, I forget. Erdogan, because he's making deals with Syria, because he's strengthening his relationship to China. China has basically the access to the Horn of Africa now. There will be a lot of drone activity. If there will be war in Africa, it will be over resources. It will be over food. And like it happened in the early 90s when we went into Somalia, right? And Canada went there, by the way, in Somalia. That was because of the massive famines that happened after the economic downturns that happened in like the late 80s, early 90s. Imagine that times 10, right? There'll be another regional, like a Congo war again. Maybe that'll spark up the Middle East in the coming decades. If America and that other nation in the greatest ally,
it's like that space that we were on. I do think that country, regardless of whatever your opinion is on the nation of Israel, it is probably going to be one of the largest geopolitical power players in that region for a significant length of time to come. And I think that they're going to flex a lot of their foreign policy muscle in 2023, because again, in the ancient world, that was the place to be. The Holy Land was important, not just because it was holy, but because you had access to trade. I mean, between Belt and Road and the current conflict and how close you are to Turkey, Russia, Ukraine, the Mediterranean, the Black Sea, as well as the rest of the Middle East, which includes the Gulf, that country is going to be more important for anyone wanting to put significant leverage in that part of the region, whether it be in sub-Saharan Africa or in the Middle East for any length of period of time to come. And that's why with this new government under Netanyahu, who's now been the prime minister for the 6th or 7th time now in the last 25 years. What's the first thing that they started doing? They changed the rhetoric on Russia. And I think that we're going to see a lot more of that diplomatically play out in 2023.
How have they changed? Are they more like neutral on the Russian question?
Yeah, they've pulled back a lot on the human rights hand-wringing.
I think it's because now they see that China's getting involved in the Syria situation in terms of brokering a deal, that they can't exactly flex their muscles against Assad as much as they would like to. I feel like probably in 2023, 2024, there will probably be some attempt by the coup to interfere with Iran, which, I mean, they've been wanting that for 18 years now, maybe longer. I think that the riots from the feminist, the Kurdish people and the feminists, the whole protests in Iran, I feel like they would think that maybe the Iranian government, the Revolutionary Guard, has been significantly weakened. So don't be
they
shocked.
still have some substantial leverage in Iraq.
They do. Well, they have nukes too. Well, they allegedly have.
Yeah. That's always been the debate as well. What do they have? What don't they have?
Yeah.
And I don't think we'll ever get a clear picture.
No, unless there would be like Israeli bombers hovering over Tehran. I don't think we'll ever get a clear picture of that. I mean, I do think that
because we haven't seen another, at least that we know of, I should say. Because what's the last major thing that the Israelis have done in regards to trying to stop nuclear weapon proliferation? And it was Operation Think Outside the Box, where they bombed Syria before back in 2007.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, in 2007. Yeah. Because in the 80s, they had Osirak. That was another, thing. That was the RBMK reactor. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if the glow in the darks in America and the Knesset, if they believe that Iran has been significantly weakened, that we'll see some activity there. Do you think the 2020s will see a return to the Middle East, or we're just so burnt out for the Middle East that maybe I don't know, depending on how the war goes in Ukraine, right?
I think that I think that the Middle East is one of those areas of perpetual interest that is just not.
We're never gonna.
But I do think that there will be a more renewed focus on Central and South America for the United States in the coming.
You think
decade.
so?
In the coming decade, I think that there will be a renewed interest and a renewed discourse, politically speaking, over the values and worth of the Monroe Doctrine.
Interesting.
That I think will definitely come back.
But which country though? Brazil or
no? There will be concerns. It depends on who succeeds. One, it'll depend on who succeeds AMLO. I know he's still in there for another year. Who succeeds him, and how strong does CELAC present itself? I think with Lula getting in office, who's much more of a corrupt leftist, it'll be easier for CELAC to be strengthened because it's a primarily non-Western, anti-Anglo organization that's against the OAS. And so,
but you'd figure he'd be more pro-Biden because of how they hated Bolsonaro. But Lula has actually historically been antagonistic to America at certain points, but also not as antagonistic at other points. So he's a wild card. I think that the Biden regime, the Brandon regime, they were breathing a sigh of relief when Lula got in, obviously. But I think the problem is like Bolsonaro just isn't really that effective when it comes to like the same flaws that Trump has.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but I do think that Lula potentially will shock the current regime in Washington. I think he's probably looking towards China, and he's looking towards the Shanghai Economic Cooperation, because I feel like you got to realize Lula represents like 80s liberation theology leftism in South America, where they remember like the Washington Consensus and like the whole like anti-globalization 80s leftoidism in South America. They will probably move slightly underneath the nose of the Democrats in America, assuming they win in 2024 again, right?
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but that's a pretty good bet.
Well,
like,
I mean, that has to be the lessons, right? That 2023 brings, is that people. I mean, Trump's already announced his re-election campaign.
Yeah,
I don't know if DeSantis will run or not. I think that he will. He will put up one hell of a primary slug fight if he does.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And the question has been, and this is the same question that Pat Casey has, is like, well, who's whispering in his ear?
Yeah. Oh, the neocons, obviously.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the issue. I mean, even when David French, when he was starting to get more attention, was like, he's way more like us than you think. That should have been some huge ass alarm bells for regular people. But I don't know. I mean, the world is going to increasingly get more complicated. I think that the right has some very serious lessons that it needs to learn. And that, it's funny. We talked about meme magic and how much predictive wish fulfillment it has. It really kind of dies when it goes in the wake of international relations and geopolitics, because, how much wish fulfillment have we seen from, regardless of your take on the issue of the war, whether you're pro-Ukraine, pro-Russia, whatever, what did we see? We saw a lot of people doing wish fulfillment at the beginning. I remember seeing debates between Greg Johnson and EMJ over this stuff. Yeah. And you had some of these like classical 19th century definitions of like Ernest Renan's What is a Nation? And, we shouldn't have to be concerned about geopolitics. We have to focus on the agency of these people. And, EMJ was just like, well, you're literally like, this is the gay disco happening. Like, we're watching the machinations of a much larger nation state with, billions of dollars to bring to bear, not just in military equipment.
I have this tweet, actually. Let me go. There's this tweet by Tomlinson, who's usually just like a normie con here in Canada, about the religious picture in Ukraine now. So this is from a few days ago. Chris Tomlinson, yep, they banned the old Orthodox Church in communion with Moscow. Now you have the pagan LARPings in Azov, the new church worshiping Saint Bandera, and the full-on LGBT CIA religion as competing state churches of Ukraine. So, and of course, Russians with Attitude had this this thread upon the history of Ukrainian nationalism on the right wing, how they weren't all Banderites, that they were different. But then when Svoboda came in there, and like, it's really weird how it became Banderitism, right? But the reason I bring this tweet up is because we're already seeing that when there is a proxy, and don't get me wrong, it's a proxy war. We've all established this, that when it comes to those unseen cultural and religious and social impacts of the empire reaching its tendrils into your country, now we've seen the sort of stability that the Ukrainian Orthodox Church provided Ukraine as a whole, that now it's like this mishmash of like competing new religions, right? Like, it's, so that's just one example. And of course, like in recent years in Russia, they've tried to, under Putin's consent, tried to like, essentially reestablish the czarist power of the Russian Orthodox Church in Russia. So, I mean, for all of its faults and foibles, still trying to crawl their way out of the atheism of the Soviet Union, and also the debasement of the population that happened during the 1990s, right? So, but that tweet is an example, I feel, of those trends continuing within this decade, that we're going to see the empire of the West destabilizing these nations from their original, religious and cultural and racial stock. And also there's going to be this sort of weaponized chaos on the ground of trying to deroot those institutions within these countries. And, even ostensible allies like Hungary, for instance. Hungary is a good example of them, trying to cajole and push their agenda forward. So, anyways, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Prudent.
Well, I literally, what I will tell people to not to shamelessly shill is that over a year ago, actually a year ago in March of 2021, I did a video called Deterritorialization in American Soft Power. This is literally what the U.S. foreign policy is oriented, is both using hard and soft power to deterritorialize cultures, religions, traditions, which is why Afghanistan shifted from a war on terror to being a war for women's education, equal rights, and LGBT stuff in schools. And even now, that's what we're kind of seeing here is that, we want, rainbow flags for all. We want to uproot the native culture. And again, this is the sort of been the real impact of Americanization is that we want Kimberly Crenshaw and we want sodomy everywhere. And it's great demoralization. It's greatly effective. And because what makes it worse is that for American right-wingers, you start looking for a savior outside of your own country. And then it gets even easier for the U.S. State Department or the FBI to look towards Americans that are being like, hey, this Putin guy isn't all that bad, or hey,
Xi Jinping, maybe not.
Maybe the based Maoists are the way to go, just to get back at the regime. And the FBI can be like, look at these domestic terrorists, look at these foreign, psyops and fake news.
They're being paid by dark money from the Kremlin or Beijing.
Yeah, they're spies. Yeah, and so. But inadvertently,
Logo Dallas is a spy for
the CCP,
Yeah, we had his hands up.
God, that's so funny.
Look. Oh shit! Oh my fucking vape. Sorry, I was gonna do the thing.
Someone clipped that. No, I mean that's the thing. I think that's what I said to Millennial Woes on my millennial appearances is that. What this year has really shown is that, how prophetic unrestricted warfare was, is because even now in this war of images and memes and ideas and theories is that how much of this are we unwittingly talking about and saying or reporting on or reviewing that is astroturf propagandized and inadvertently things that will be putting me on a watch list that I didn't even know existed. And I think that is going to only get worse in 2023. Because let's face it, I mean, what are all the Russian ads about Christmas or American values and things like that?
Yeah.
That is pornographic to a right-wing American.
Yeah.
That is porn. I'm sorry. Like, it's good. And it makes you want to salivate for it, be like, damn, like, wow, like, really, like, big homo is really a problem, and I really don't like it. We shouldn't call it the LGBT community. We should just call it big homo. Or, big homo or big F slur.
The pink mafia.
That gives them too much credit.
True.
That's an insult to hardworking Italians. So big homo is just like
and hardworking Russians and hardworking Serbians and hardworking I'm
Greek,
thinking of all the mafias. The Irish don't really have.
They used to,
but in North America. But,
especially North America. But they all started working for the NYPD. So I mean,
there you go. They didn't need it anymore.
They didn't need it anymore. They took over the
racist NYPD cop. Whoa, that's another. Speaking of racist cops, there was this tweet I saw from this anti-UNOED account about like this schizo conspiracy that some police force is working with the Proud. Not that I like. Again, I think that they're. I don't support these people, right? But I'm thinking like objectively though, what has the leftist groups been able to do? They have managed to get activist judges and police forces and marching in pride parades. And it's like, you realize that this is how real power works. But if the right wing in America, say, wanted to be like, you know what, we're probably going to go back to a model where if we have sympathetic people in positions of like local power, it's like, well, like, this is like, I hate to say it, this is what you have to do. Like look at how many, like, again, like how can there be like activist judges in Texas and other, Texas is like becoming a purple state now, but like theoretically a red state. Like how can you have in conservative areas little pockets of judicial leftist activism or police forces or so forth? Like the only way you can really do anything is if you march through the institutions. And I feel for like right wingers that have like read this stuff for like decades now, that they would actually do it. You know what I mean? Like I'm tiptoeing around it.
Yeah.
But, you know, if things get really brutal, if the federal government like goes, you know, totally schizo, you know, under the Democrats or whatever, you're going to have to create pockets of resistance in different states. And I think that's why Ron DeSantis was memed on by people initially because of the whole COVID thing. You know, like I think because Ron DeSantis looked good in terms of a rebel governor, right? Then people like, you know what? He's perfect for the presidency. But really, is he just like a normie con or not? Like maybe he is. He's just a normie con, but I don't know. We'll see what happens in 24. But anyways, we've been going on for almost 2.5 hours. My God.
I mean, that's the thing though about DeSantis, and that's just been my gut take is that because America still has rather nominally a federal system where there is still a shit ton of sovereignty with the states.
Yeah.
You're better off at remaking Florida in your own image.
Exactly. Instead of going for the national level. Yeah.
Because like it took, I'm not talking about Trump specifically. I'm talking about all the guys around Trump, like the Andrew Klosters and the Jeremy Carls of the world. It took them working in the White House with him to realize the same problem that Nixon had, you know, but it's so much worse with the civil, service. And the same thing that the right-wing British guys had managed to find out with Brexit. It's the Home Office that was going to stab your back every time. And so it's just like, does DeSantis have a plan to literally, you know, upon taking the oath of office, being like, okay, every single one of you people are fired and you are barred from ever working with any state or federal government ever again? You know, like you people are garbage and you need to go to jail. You know, like unless you're going to do that and clear them out and cross that line, you know, or we're going to get nothing's going to happen. You know, team nothing happening.
Team nothing happened. Well, it's like what Bap said about that one case in the 90s, that one election where they like literally went in there with their suits and they were white guys. And, you know that clip, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like that's not going to happen anymore. Like, which I think, you know, that is one thing I will say. This is Josh Neal's point about all like the rhetoric with Trump about like fortifying. That literally didn't go anywhere though, because it was designed not to go anywhere because of the sort of the judicial and electoral power in America and the way things are designed to go nowhere when it comes to those massive, large scale incidences. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, do you think in 24, I mean, who's it going to be? Going to be Newsom versus DeSantis? I mean, I don't know.
I think that Newsom will run for president. He is sort of the progressive hope for the country, I think, in a lot of ways. Because I mean, like, who do you got?
Who in God's name's going to vote for Kamala?
Who's going to vote for Kamala? And no one's going to vote for, you know, Pete Buttigieg. I mean, why did Buttigieg die in the primaries? Because he died in South Carolina's primaries. Why? Because no black voter in America wants to vote for a white gay man for the Democratic nominee.
Yeah.
And that will be the case ad infinitum for a long time.
Yeah. Plus, he's just inherently unlikable. Not even the fact that he's gay. It's just that nobody likes the guy.
Well,
like,
he's white Obama grown in a vat.
Yeah. I thought Beto was white Obama. No.
Beto's a Latinx LARPer. No matter how hard he tries, he's still the son of Irish immigrants.
True. But let's move on to
I hated having that guy as a congressman.
Oh God, Beto with his. He's like, I listened to punk back in the day. Hello, fellow kids.
I was in a band and I skateboard in Whataburger parking lots, and it's just like, oh, please leave. You know?
It's like the creepy old dude that goes to the skate
park.
How
do you do, fellow kids?
Yeah, it's like, get out of here. Oh my God. So we didn't have time to cover Dave's article, but you know.
Yeah, we can do that. We can have a tech episode one of these days.
Yeah, well, next week we want to do a literature episode, but maybe we'll.
Yeah, we can do some tech writing, maybe. I mean,
what's your week? So we'll
figure it out.
Yeah. So, all right, first super chat. Actually, I'll go to the one for PayPal. So the PayPal's in the description. If you want to send a last minute PayPal to give me at least a decent share of the profits. This is from, I'm not going to say his name, but he's Khalifa in the chat. Oh, I actually have two. Oh my God.
Oh, look at you.
There you go. So this is from, the first one is from Khalifa. I've received $10 from, I'm just going to say his name, Josh, 1042. Pay pig offering. Thank you, Josh. It's his real name. I'm not going to say his real name. But this one is from Khalifa. Where is it? It was 1834 from Khalifa. Hello, Gio and Matt. Here's to my favorite internet artist and postmodern critic. Happy belated birthday. Merry Christmas. Have a happy new year. Thank you so much, Khalifa. Thank you, my friend. God bless you. And I hope this year, I hope this is all of our years, but I hope it's your year, Khalifa. So that is the PayPal one. Unless someone wants to send me another PayPal donation, that'd be great. So this is Son of Haster, our good friend, our good patron, Son of Haster. $5 super chats needed. Hope you both have had a good birthday and a happy new year. Thank you, Son of Haster. We just streamed on our birthday. My God.
Yeah, we did. It was a good day.
It was a good day. I saw Nullis in the chat. I actually saw Josh Neal in the chat. He was here earlier on. And of course, Vingol, our good friend, our good Janny, man with 1,000 brooms.
Man with 1,000 wrenches.
Man with 1,000 wrenches. That's a better one. Here's a meme one for $1.99. Oh my God. What's your thoughts on the Dead Internet by MG? We covered a little bit of the Dead Internet a few streams ago.
Yeah, we did. We have a whole episode on Dead Internet theory and Humdog, and
yeah.
So if you haven't, go check that one out.
So thank you, MG, but I'm gonna ban you now because you only gave $1. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, jeez.
Oh man, thank you so much, my friend. And I'm scrolling. It's, you know what's funny, Donald Trump Gaming? I keep thinking about when you said on the New Year's stream, you said Gio's blowing fat clouds like a zoomer. I can't stop thinking about that one. For Spasticus Autisticus, our good friend, $1. My God. I can't ban him though, because he's like a pretty solid patron and friend of ours. And by Jay Ford, another $1.49 super sticker, which I have to look up the actual sticker, but thank you so much, Jay Ford. But I'm going to ban you right now from the channel. Okay. And for 50 DK, which I believe is $15 Canadian, by our good friend Herlock Shaloms. I love that name. And he's got the picture of the is it Wind in the Willow? That avatar?
I think so.
Yeah. Herlock Shaloms. Speaking of wife, you know what's funny? Every Christmas, me and my old man rewatched the Sherlock Holmes series. The one with what's his name? The one made in the 80s. I forget his name. So anyways, speaking of waifus, I'm rereading The Two Towers at the moment. It's funny
how Jeremy Brett?
Yeah, Jeremy Brett, that one. Yeah, Jeremy Brett. Yeah. It's funny how Treebeard asks hobbits if they've seen any female ents. He is a tree cell. What is The Two Towers? Is that what is
Lord of the Rings, man?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Lord of the Rings. There's tree cells. What is a tree cell in Lord of the Rings? I don't know.
Have you not read Lord of the Rings, Gio?
I actually haven't. I have to admit, I haven't read Lord of the Rings. I watched the movies, yeah, but yeah,
okay,
I haven't read Lord of the Rings.
We're gonna have to do a Lord of the Rings stream when you finally read them. So.
Maybe.
Press 1 in the chat if you want Gio to read Lord of the Rings.
Oh my God, that's gonna take so much of my time. Oh my God. But thank you. I believe that's $15. DK is Dutch crooner, or what is that?
DKK. Let's find out real quick.
Let's see. 50. DKK.
Danish krone. So yeah, 50 should be roughly $10 Canadian.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. 50. Yeah, 960 Canadian. So there you go.
Okay, cool.
So thank you, Herlock Shaloms.
Well, it looks like they want you to read Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'll have to scroll down to when I do the super chats. $2 by Jay Ford because he felt guilty. You ever consider becoming a streamer of video? No, I don't play video games.
We'd be one step closer to being Destiny if we did that.
Yeah, that's true. We'd be base Destiny.
Yeah, no, I play plenty of video games as a free time, easy way because I like flight sims and stuff like that. But no, I wouldn't want to stream it.
Would people?
I might do an alternate channel like AA does, with his Morcar character or whatever. But
he does streaming, video streaming.
Yeah, 2021 and 2022, he's got a channel called AA Gold, and I think he's got another one where he does his video game stuff.
Oh my god!
And he tried playing Dark Souls for the first time. Oh god, it was so funny.
Whoa. Was he good at it, or? Okay,
that's what made it great.
Dark Side Phil type content, right there.
That's what made it great.
Oh my god!
Was AA trying to figure out Sen's Fortress? Just.
Amazing. The man keeps taking W's. This is by Johannes Paleologos, our good friend, good patron, for 100. Is that Swiss kroner?
Norwegian?
Norwegian kroner? I think Norwegian.
NOK currency. Norwegian krone equals.
Yeah, Norwegian krone. So it's 13.24 Canadian. Thank you very much. To my good wait. The StreamYards is not. I have to zoom. Here you go. To my good friends, Friend, Theory Cell, True Cell, favorite Vatnik, Geopolitical. Hope you have a great year. Many you live on in interesting times. More Twitter simping and get Paju on. I'm actually this month. I'm probably gonna start talking to Jonathan Paju again. So we'll see what happens. I have to scroll up to. Oh, here we go. I'm almost done. The super. Oh no, actually, I'm not almost done the super chats.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's because as soon as they go full screen, it kicks me. I have to scroll.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, but where is it? Hitchin. Oh, people talk about Hitchens versus Sargon being epic. So yeah, that was very epic. I mean. It really reminded me of the Gypsy Joe versus New Jack match.
Well, and there's your wrestling.
Yeah.
One for the bingo.
Yeah. Oh, Jake Lloyd was in the chat. Very nice.
Yeah, Jake Lloyd's great. I don't know. It was kind of funny because like Carl kind of like just he did his video with on Lotus Eaters and he was just like, Peter's got a point. The revolution came and they won.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very similar to here in America where, Garrett was like the revolution already happened, in the night of depression. Oh
my God. But I mean, I think Sargon's right. You can't lose hope. I mean, the British, the weight of history on them,
Yeah. I agree with Carl that you can't.
Yeah.
You can't. Even if you go howling into that good night, I'd rather do that. I think there's more honor than that
Yeah. But the situation in Britain is way more blackpilling than here. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. $5, J Ford to get her. Good patron. Also, you should get Entropy or Dono chat. Sick of Google taking their cut. Maybe I'll get Entropy. I know you have Entropy, don't you?
Yeah, Entropy works great.
Yeah.
Less of a cut.
I'll get Entropy. Then Bior with a pipe. Bijorg with a pipe. Cheers for $3. Thank you, my friend. I hope I'm saying that right. Bijor. Because Bior is like, Bijor. It's like Bior.
Mm-hmm.
So. Actually, Bior is actually all right. She's got some pretty good stuff. I gotta admit. So now I'm scrolling down. Here we go. Oh, actually donated Jake Lloyd for $5. Very telling the way BreadTube just dies, but right-wing content goes through unstoppable life and death cycles. Oh, no.
Right-wing Twitter and YouTube is the endless cycle of death and rebirth.
Exactly. It's really is the wheel of samsara. But thank you, Jake Lloyd. I know he had a little bit of that, the cycle of death and rebirth with different movements, but thank you very much, my friend. Very good seeing Jake Lloyd. And also another good poster that just showed up for son of a bitch. Our good friend Raging Mandrill, but not so much my good friend now that he had to just troll me by sending $1.
You get we're in our own
We're in our own version of being underground. Thank you, Raging Mandrill. We'll have to ban you from the chat, though. So, no, I'm kidding. Oh, my God. Because people know I hate the Amazing Atheist so much that they have to haunt me with that as soon as I mentioned him. It's like, my God. Woods versus...
The one thing that I did enjoy about 2022 that we didn't discuss was just the amazing atheist literally dressing like a fucking demon after the Roe v. Wade bit was thrown back to the States.
Yeah,
it's like, I am angry. And I'm like, you literally look like the devil, but thank you for proving our point after all these years.
I'm not going to throw this up on screen because it's so edgy, but subject to change, our good friend says, Nightmare Chud 88, which actually is a good poster, versus Biden RP Groiper. When's that debate going to happen on Content Minded? Well, we'll see. We should get Biden RP Groiper on the stream. That's gonna.
Oh boy.
Play
a game of someone I don't even know about.
Oh god. For another $1.99. Like, you people are too much. Dunkachino. That's a good name. I like that name. Will the E-Right make alliances with Tariq Nasheed? Well, we tried that in 2021.
It did not end well.
It did not end well. Tariq Nasheed is just...
I enjoy Tariq Nasheed because he doesn't want to end up like Louis Farrakhan or any of the other people that lament the situation of black men, so he continues to blame the people that don't run Hollywood to do it. But, he's got a point, though. I mean, it's a culture of taking away virility and masculine attitudes.
It's
all cultures.
It's too bad he just hates white people so much because, like, a significant part of his like audience is like edgy right wingers that like love to see him.
They all cheer him on and watch him get like weirdly hypnotically entranced when he sees another man's ass.
Yeah. Oh my god, he really is. He really is dicking over his demographics.
He really is. In a desperate attempt to not get dicked himself. That's what he's doing.
There you go. For another $1.99 by Daniel Robinson. Happy New Year's, fellas. Happy New Year's to you. Hopefully you had a good one. You know what's funny? I actually missed out today. Last night was Wrestle Kingdom. I actually have to go and watch it when I eat dinner tonight. So Donald Trump Gaming Palaver sucks though. Yeah, but come on. He's the best we got, Donald Trump Gaming. I see a lot of friends like the Bourgeois Beatnik, Honey Bud Groiper, of course, King Salmon Fish, JN's, Vingol. Oh, here we go. $13.99 by Bartholomew the Red. Palaver's good at calling juniors BS, but he needs to start listening to the PPC on immigration and culture. Nice shirt, Gio. Nice quarters, Zit, Prude. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year's to you both. Thank you, Bartholomew the Red. I wholly agree with you. So I love wearing ridiculous shirts like this. This is my style. So, and it's very smart casual Prude has going on right there.
That's what I'm going for. We had the suit pulled out again for Christmas, but I told myself I would dress more often because first episode I wore someone else's. I wore a shirt to promote a then friend, and then I was properly berated for not being in my formal attire. So here we are.
Exactly. And for one of the most incoherent super chats I've ever gotten in my life, Jay Ford, $5. Rickety butt bang. He's just paying me to say this crap.
He sure is, and you will say it. Dance, leaf monkey, dance.
Dance, leaf. Oh my god. Dance. Well, actually, they ban handguns in Canada, so it has to be something else. Rickety butt bang bourbon. This Elmo is broken, but the hoop stank e-girls acting like who mama. Oh, what?
I don't know, but you should tweet that out later.
Honey Bud said if Jay Ford gives me another $5, I'll tweet that out. So oh my god. I shouldn't say these things because then it's gonna
it will bite you in the ass, I promise, speaking from experience.
Yeah. Apparently Vingol says the Russian mafia isn't Russian anymore. Well, yeah, the demographics of the Russian mafia is actually quite interesting. It's no longer a lot of Muscovites. It's like there's a lot of Chechens, a lot of Tartars, a lot of different people. Come on, Polish ambassador, why are you unsubscribed? Oh my! Did you see because it was banning people?
No, I think it was because you haven't read Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay. Well, I watched the movies. Oh, you people are like, okay, now I'm finally at the end here. Jake Lloyd says, highly recommend Entropy. Garrett pilled. So $2 by J Ford again. Sir Oswald Emerald Mosley Gaming.
Maybe
We need that.
Maybe
Groiper.
Maybe
Oswald Mosley Gaming Groiper.
Well, that's been so. One of the earliest memes when I started showing my face was that someone said I looked like him, and so Dora has some memes that have taken some of Oswald Mosley's posters and replaced them with my face. They're
oh my god,
hard to find, but they're out there somewhere.
They're out there. Maybe Dora will post some of my Telegram again.
Yeah, maybe he will. So yeah.
Ace says Geo hosting blood sports like 2018 era. Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to like a debate when you're doing like a pre-recorded live, like a maybe if I do more live streams, we'll see what happens. But I'm all optics check. The Russian mafia was of course the Hungarian would say that the Russian mafia was never Russian. Oh, God. Thank you, Nollis. If anyone has any last minute super chats, we've been going for a while. Let me just check my phone again to see if I got any more. My mutual added me. What's his name? Sadakoro. He said state-funded goon caves incoming. Well, I guess if the Canadian government wants to pay for goon caves, that would be amazing. But no, actually, what am I talking about? That would be terrible. That'd be absolutely terrible. But I don't have any other PayPal donations. So this has been a good first of the year stream. So on the Digital Archipelago, next week will be on Prude's channel. And like I say, listen, guys, listen. I know some of you dropped because of the holidays, but go to patreon.com/Genre Productions. I just released the mega 30th episode of Content Minded with Wide Dog. And hopefully by Sunday or Monday will be, I actually have it here. Will be the first installment, Genre Reviews. Half of it will be free on this channel of Mbebe's Necropolitics. So that's my plan for, and also, but hopefully by Friday, tomorrow, or Saturday, my end of the year review article will come out. It's one of the most important articles I've ever written, and hopefully that turns out good. So thank you. And Nollis says, great 2023 stream, guys. Wishing you all power. Thank you, Nollis. Yeah, there we go. So any last minute shilling, Prude?
Yes, so there's by all means subscribe to the Substack, Prudentialist.substack.com. There's new articles every week and always one every other week behind the paywall on stuff regarding foreign policy, politics, and culture. We had one just out yesterday called Technological Ascesis. So if you're interested, by all means, tune in over there. This weekend, I will be live with Semiagog covering deglobalization.
Nice.
And Friday afternoon, tomorrow, I will be speaking with Gifts Ungiven over on her channel. So
wow, I didn't see that one coming.
Well, mainly because due to the Millennial Review.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah,
she DM'd me and we'd set up a time to talk. And so she and I will have a conversation on culture. I think she's just interviewing me. I don't know how that's going to go, but by all means, stay tuned. We'll promote it more. The Old Glory Club will be talking about the 2nd year anniversary of Insurrection Day tomorrow evening. So that'll also be a fun time. And then, by all means, support me on Subscribestar, Buy Me a Coffee, or Substack if you're choosing. Plenty of great stuff coming for you. We are also starting Patron Book Club again. So if you are interested in joining myself and all my other fantastic patrons, this Saturday on January 20, or the coming Saturday on January 28th, we will be covering Oswald Spengler's Man and Technics. So see my Telegram and my tweets on that issue. You can join as low as $2 a month. So it's definitely worth your time. Get access to some great stuff behind the scenes. So that's what I've got going for me. So if you haven't heard of my channel, by all means, subscribe down below.
Yeah, I have two more. Oh my God, 2 more super chats here.
Oh, look at that.
I'm probably gonna have to start at my Patreon Substack. My Patreon Discord where I can do book review things or meetings. I know people. Oh, please don't. Oh my God. Don't make me do it.
But he did. And you're a man of your word.
$5, our good friend Jake Lloyd. Careful, read the wrong dono. You could be eternally haunted by Jake Lloyd. Yummy biscuits and gravy. What the hell?
Oh,
okay, listen, he's making me
some deep Jake Lloyd lore.
I have to roll up for the super chat just to you know what? I can just go to my YouTube studio. Because I'm gonna have to copy the text and tweet it out. So Why are you making why did I have to open my mouth? Honestly, why did I have to do that? Let's see here. Okay, this is rickety butt bang bur. I'm opening up Twitter now.
So while you tweet that, do you mind if I read Jay Ford's $5?
Yeah, go ahead.
In the nice, lovely, in the nice Lindsey Graham Southern accent. So here we go. Jay Ford for $5 says, "Yeah, you're tweeting that, buddy. Save my eyes from the e-girls you keep liking in RTN. First step to fix the problem is to admit it."
Wow.
So there you go. He kept up with it. $5.
Let me see. Okay, I just tweeted it now. I tweeted it now. So there you go.
While you're at it, while we're looking at the comments, Sasan Habiri, you'll get access to either or, Sasan, whether it's on Substack or Subscribestar. If you want to support on Substack or Subscribestar, by all means, I will not say no to either. You'll get access to the same content.
Yeah, Prude is DMing e-girls. Wow.
No, I am not DMing e-girls.
Yeah,
I literally got a random message that said, "Thank you for your comments about her millennial appearance."
Yeah. But another thing too, I want to float by you guys. If you don't want to pay Patreon, by next week or the week after, I want to put all the paywalled stuff on my Substack, so you could pay me $5 on Substack. If you guys like that, press 1 in the chat if you'd rather pay for my Substack than Patreon. 2 for just keep Patreon. So press 1 if you would agree with that. If you want if you would rather pay me on Substack than on Patreon, I'll put all the podcast feature. I'll put my backlog up on Substack the way that Prude does, right, with his paywalled content. So, yeah. Oh, so I have ones now. So I'm gonna have to do all that work to put everything up.
Let's go find Gio's tweet and retweet it. There it is.
Oh my god.
RT. Actually, you know what? Quote tweet it. There we go.
You're killing me. I'm never gonna have to delete it now.
It should be your pinned tweet.
Oh my god! Listen, I will pin the tweet for if Jay Ford gives me another $5. No, if he gives me $10, I'll pin the tweet. If Jay Ford gives me $10, I will pin that tweet.
Oh, good times.
Look at this. Look an alternative future where Gio didn't tweet that out. He is happily married to Gibson. Oh my god. So you guys like the idea of Substack then? You guys would pay for my Substack. Come on, Jay Ford, you have your chance. $10 for me to pin the tweet.
Oh my god. Really trying to get to that 3-hour mark, aren't we, Gio?
You son.
Careful, Gio.
I'm gonna have a heart attack by the end of the stream. Oh my god! Oh, you son.
Thank God for super chat.
This is terrible. This is terrible. I can't believe you would do this to me.
Based Mr. Ford. Oh
man.
See, you should never denigrate your patrons though, because as MG says, he's a broke college kid and he only sends $1 donations.
Yeah, but I thought he was sending it because of the meme. Because of the
that's it, Gio.
Oh, you people are I apologize. I had to pin the tweet. I just pinned the tweet. For you to delete the tweet, I had to do this for a super chat reply. Who am I gonna trust? We're Jay Ford or Spasticus now? Because Spasticus just sent $10. Thank you to delete the tweet. Should I Ace? Listen, Ace. Listen. I know you're a Zoomer, and you can't tell if between real women or not as a Zoomer. Oh, I'm kidding. What? I'm gonna end this stream. I'm gonna end the stream before the 3-hour mark. Should I delete the tweet? But I can't. I can't delete the tweet.
Delete it in an hour or whatever.
I'll delete it in an hour. Also, I'm gonna have to work for my seller's website because a patron of mine asked me. So I've been totally lazy with that, guys. I have the website all up and ready. I just have to put stock on it. So there you go.
He said, "Oh no, Spasticus, no, for you to delete the reply." Oh well, looks like the tweet's staying. You have to delete his reply.
What's my
Apparently, Spasticus Autisticus put out a tweet. Oh, he says based.
Oh, delete the reply saying it was for a super chat. Oh my God. You people you're literally picking your way into like monitoring my behavior.
Well,
okay, I'm not gonna have to.
That comes with being a commentariat class, I guess.
Oh my God. Okay, I deleted it. There you go. Oh my.
Thank God.
You people are mean. You people are bad. You know exactly how to spin my wheels, bro. Kill those paintings up, boy. Yes, only delete the one that says I had to do it for the super chat. You people are so bad. I'm ending this. Get me out of here, engineer. Get me out of here. Thank you so much, fellas, for all the donos. Thank you. Let's see if I have a PayPal one.
Vingle's correct. It's the world's oldest profession.
It is. My God. All right. Thank you all. Super chatters. Nothing is beyond our reach. How much? If someone pays me $100, I will tweet, I can save Taylor Lorenz. If someone pays me $100, no, I'm kidding. If someone pays me $10 super chat, I will tweet out I can save Taylor Lorenz for a $10 super chat.
Oh, that's just superlative, isn't it?
Yeah. No, sorry, $20. $20, and I will tweet out I can save Taylor Lorenz. But we have to end the stream, so I don't know. When it comes to fair sex, Zoomers shouldn't listen to millennials. Gen X does it better. Yeah, Nollis, you're kind of right. Come on, guys, it's only $20 for me to tweet out.
Oh my God, we're getting to the point where you're basically turning into that goblin chick. $5. $5.
$5.
Jesus.
Come on, $20, and I will tweet out I can save Taylor Lorenz. Come on, guys.
I like how we're paying for tweets now, gentlemen. We've basically we've reinvented we've reinvented a certain kind of pay by the minute.
Okay, I'll lower it to $10. No.
You holy shit. Tweet that you can save IAF.
Oh my God.
You
$100.
Dumb bastard. Well, congratulations. You got to go do it.
It's like literally my hands are trembling. I can save Ayala from her shower dodging. Oh my God. Spasticus Autisticus with $100. I can't believe it. I've been upended by
I love it.
The tweet's up and Prude's probably going to retweet it right now.
Nope. What I'm going to do instead is and like I did it for money.
God, $100. I'm in shock right now. Thank you so Spasticus Autisticus, thank you so much. Yes, exactly. You're right, WebM Aristocrat. Geo absolutely BTFO'd. You people are disgusting. Happy birthday, Merry Christmas, thank you. Yeah, it's Happy New Year. I hope you had a good Christmas, Spasticus. I can't believe that just happened right now. I can't believe I grinded my way. My Twitter notifications are gonna be ruined. I swear to God. And like Ayala, he tweeted this for money. You said it. That's it, Prude. That's it. Friendship over. No.
Geo can't breathe. He's been put down by the kneecap of 100 pounds.
Oh my God. That was the perfect reply. Like Ayala, he did it for money.
I would just tweet this shit for free, but they're unironic bangers.
They're unironically top tier posts. It's true. Unless you have any more donations, I wonder what I could probably. Now that we're in this moment, I wonder what I could squeeze out of my donos here. I wonder what could I tweet that could top that. For $6.99 by Barbartholomew, and even if Gio wanted to stop sipping chats, wouldn't let him. Sad.
Dance, dance.
Man, thank you so much, Bartholomew Red. Yes, I will leave you with that. It's over, but I have to end the stream. Thank you so much for making this stream amazing. This truly was a
great way to kick off the new year.
Yeah, what a great way to start the year. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I have also another good bit of news that Matthew the Stout gave me, which is apparently my number one A-Log got banned. No, Donald Trump Gaming. I will not say that. No, I will.
For $1 million,
no.
I'll tweet it.
For $1 million? Yeah, for $1 million maybe. But that's
You can take that shit to the bank. Yeah, I'd do it for $1 million.
for $1 million. Yeah, if someone PayPal'd me $1 million, then I would tweet it out. So there you go. I'm waiting. I'm kidding. Okay, let's end the stream. Please go to tomorrow or Saturday. I will have the article out. I just have to do last minute editing. Prudent Semiagog is always good content. This Saturday.
Thanks for dancing for the Mammons, Gio. Who are you gonna serve, Gio?
I'm gonna have to take a shower after this.
Well, at least Iea doesn't do that. So yes, go take a shower, Gio.
Oh my god.
Thank you, chat. You've made my day.
Yeah. Thank you.
I look forward to what crazy shit you make me do next week.
I'm donating my life savings to see funny tweets. You're lucky I don't stream multiple times a week. I don't bring back laid back Saturdays, or else you guys are really gonna get punished. You're lucky I'm merciful that I only stream once every 2 weeks. Maybe I should stream every week. Well, maybe in the New Year's I'll commit to streaming. I'll do some I want to go back to doing art videos in the new year, so we'll see what happens. But thank you all. Love you. God bless. Goodbye. Too sweet. And just for you, Donald Trump Gaming, I will do one more fat cloud. So,
well, ladies and gents, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next time.
God bless. Goodbye. Too sweet.